And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here. I appreciate your patience, and I apologize for any delay here this morning, and it will not happen again. So, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, I'm happy to start off our week. It's the week before Thanksgiving. It's crazy. Holidays are here because Thanksgiving puts us to Christmas, puts us to New Year's. So happy to be here. Obviously, the weather got the memo that the holiday season is here because it started to snow, and it's rained pretty much every day in Syracuse for multiple days now. I know people are sad about it. And then it started to snow, and it's cold, but there's not a ton of snow, which is good. And hopefully you're being safe. Hopefully you're traveling safe. Leave a little bit earlier. I'm talking to myself too. And just make sure that you're not rushing through life, because you don't want to cost yourself or somebody else any type of safety or health or anything because you're trying to get somewhere really fast, or they're trying to get somewhere really fast. So please just be really safe. It would mean a lot to me if you would do that. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe, we're coming to you on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you're tuning into the show, we thank you so much for being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Monday through Friday, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City comes to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. It is your place to go for new and used vehicles. You'll find your way over to Great Lakes Honda City Monday through Saturday. They're open for sales and service, so make sure you get in touch with them and just let them know that DT sent you. They're a fantastic place. They have wonderful people, and I've been going there for over a decade. You know that I won't tell you to go anywhere that I don't go to myself, and I'm proud to go to Great Lakes Honda City. Proud that that's where I've gotten my vehicles for over 11 years now, so make sure you head out to Great Lakes Honda City today, and you can get a sneak peek of their inventory by going to greatlakeshondacity.com. We got an awesome show set up for you today. Of course, Murph is back, so we'll start it off in this Murph Monday with Murph in just a few minutes. I do want to do a very important thing to start off this week. It's hard for me to talk about this today because it's not something that I thought I would have to talk about, honestly. This is not a human being that I thought I would have to pay tribute to for until I was 80. So, I mean, this week started off with finding out of the loss of somebody that I've greatly appreciated over the years. I believe arguably he may have been like the first person to really appreciate the work that I did on a grand scale. You know, when it comes to starting my own company and breaking away from where I was working and stepping out on my own path and daring to do something different. When I made the decision to do that, you know, you're hoping that people will give you a chance. You're hoping that they'll give you a credential, that they'll give you an opportunity. And this gentleman did it without hesitation. I was covering the Big East at the time. The Big East football dissolved, and it became the American Conference. Before it became the American, it was in this, it was a conference, but it didn't have a name, and it didn't have a logo, and this gentleman was there. This gentleman never hesitated in giving me a credential, never hesitated in giving me an opportunity, got me on the teleconference calls, got me out to the media days. Just, he provided opportunity after opportunity to a kid that was just hoping that somebody would see the value of their work, and he did. And, you know, I think the email that I got from him years and years ago, was, I think it was arguably the first email that I got from like a major conference or, any event or anything that I had done as far as like a really positive message. And it meant the world to me. And it continues to mean the world to me. I mean, I talk to people about that email that was sent to me. I've talked about that email for years. And that came from Chuck Sullivan. It came from somebody who took the time to let you know that you mattered, that he appreciated you, that he valued you. This was a time where other people were laughing me off, probably thought I was crazy for starting my own business. My own hometown was disrespectful toward me. Not my hometown, but people within it. My hometown's been great. But people within my hometown that credential were awful toward me. And this man wasn't. This man was, sometimes it felt like one of the only people outside of myself that really saw what I was doing and appreciated it. And I'll never forget it. I will never forget that it was people like Chuck Sullivan, what he did, how he did it, why he did it. That I don't think, I mean, now he knows because he's up in heaven and he can look down and he can hear this today. But to know just how much it meant to me to hear kind words in a cold world. And I'm never going to forget it. I will never forget it. I will never forget the many emails. I think the last email I sent him was to set up an interview with the commissioner, Tim Pernetti. And as always, however, whatever it took, however long it took, whatever we had to go through, we set it up. Chuck was a guy that would email you right back so many times. I could probably count on one hand in almost a decade if I didn't hear from Chuck right away. He made you feel important. He made you feel seen. He made you feel valued. He took care of you. He did things that I don't even know if he gave himself enough credit for. And I found out yesterday that he had passed away, and it just made me stop. Murph and I were getting ready to go on the air this morning, and Murph knows me, you know me. I always have something to say. I didn't even know what to say to Murph this morning. Because if I've learned anything in these last few months, it's that most of the things that I have spent my time worrying about absolutely don't matter. Absolutely don't matter. It does not matter what people think of you. It does not matter what people say about you. It does not matter what people try to do to you. It doesn't matter if they like you. It doesn't matter if they date you. It doesn't matter if they value you, if they want to work with you. It doesn't matter. And when somebody passes away that does value you, that does care about you, that does think highly of you, that is there for you, that is consistent, it reminds you how much that other garbage doesn't matter. And not that those people are garbage. But you have to spend your life focusing on making a difference the best way that you possibly can. And the people that appreciate that difference, hold on to them. And the people that don't, forget about them. Don't be the person that has to look at their phone saying, I just bitched and moaned and complained about something that was nonsensical from people that don't even whatever. And then you look at your phone and your friend's passed away. You look at your phone and somebody you value's passed away. You look at your phone and someone you thought that you'd be talking to for the next 30, 40 years passed away. And I want to say something to people that don't believe in God. Disney is twice the size of Manhattan. Walt Disney World. Okay. Did I measure it myself? No. But that's what has been told to me repeatedly. It is there's certain things you work at Disney you don't forget. It's 2 times the size of Manhattan. They've only built on a third of their property. Keep that in mind when I tell you this story. Disney has hundreds of restaurants. Disney has a plethora of hotels. Disney has 2 water parks, 4 theme parks. Keep that all in mind when I have this conversation with you. All of these places, he could have been and I could have been. And within all their parks, they have all these rides. And then you talk about the timing. I got off of Avatar Flight of Passage, one of my favorite rides at one of my favorite parks in Animal Kingdom. When I got off the ride, guess who was in the gift shop? So he's walking around the gift shop. Oh no, he was coming off the ride. I had just come off the ride. I was in the gift shop because he came through the automatic doors and I was walking toward him, Chuck Sullivan. What are the odds of that? What are the odds that we're in the same place at the same time in a place that's twice the size of Manhattan, and that on any park, any hotel, any event, any restaurant, any ride, anything, at the same time, we bump into each other? And he said hello and he smiled, as he always did. Chuck was very simple. He said, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" I said, "Good, Chuck, how are you?" He said, "Good." I said, "This is so weird." Then we bumped into each other. And then we said, "See you in a couple days," because I believe I was going to Disney right before I went to an American conference event. And he was out there with his family, with his wife, with his kids. He wanted to, obviously do something. And the thing about Chuck is he made it about everybody else. He didn't make it about himself. That was the day I even knew he had kids. Because Chuck was always talking to you, about what you needed. How can he help you? What can he do? It was never about Chuck. But today it is. Because today, I have to do this, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I've had to come here and talk to you about Lawrence Moulton. I've had to come here and talk to you about Arthur Jones. It's something that's been on my mind for a while. When you get to know a lot of people in your life, God is very good. It also means that the probability of getting this phone call or seeing this message is going to be a hell of a lot higher. And all it means is I've been surrounded by really amazing people. But Chuck's one of those people that, you can't replace Chuck. And I'm not saying that somebody can't do a good job. I'm not saying I won't build a relationship with him or her. I'm just saying Chuck's not the type of person that you can just put somebody else in there and they're gonna do it the Chuck Sullivan way. And that way was with class, it was with kindness, it was with consistency, it was with value. Chuck made you feel like you were important to whatever was going on. In the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, in the morning, in the afternoon. It got to the point where anytime I asked Chuck for anything, I'm like, I don't even think about it. When it came to the American, it's like, I know I'm going to get a credential. I know I'm going to have, it was, can I go? Can I do it in my schedule? It wasn't, am I going to get it? Because from the moment that Chuck gave me a shot, from the moment that Chuck opened the door, it was like, we got Danny. We'll take care of him. He's all set. That man went out of his way for me. He made sure that not just he, but everyone knew. This is a guy we work with. This is a guy we like. This is a guy that works his tail off. And what do you say to a guy that helped you to feel seen and noticed? What do you say to a guy that gave you one of your first chances when you started your own company? What do you say to somebody that was at times felt like one of the only people that didn't question your validity, that didn't question your worth, that didn't question who you were? In a world where it just happened to me this weekend. I went and talked to somebody, and they wouldn't lift their head up because they were texting on their phone. And when I told him who I was and that I wanted to do an interview, he said, "Who are you with?" And the whole conversation felt like, I'm going to raise my head if I decide that you have any value. Depending on who you work for is whether or not I'm going to raise my head. Chuck never did that. And that's why I don't like doing this today. You know, they say the good die young, and Chuck was 54. But the good die young no matter how old you are. And that's because, is there ever a good time to have to say see you later to a good human? Is there ever a good time to not get an email? He is a good man. I say is. I don't stutter. Because God is going to don that man in a beautiful white robe. And he will be lit with the perpetual light. His family's going to be okay. Chuck, I just want you to know, if you can hear me, that you touched a lot of lives. I thanked you a lot. And I meant it. Because you were one of the only nice, good-hearted people in this business that I had met in the beginning of starting my career. Sometimes it was like, everybody treats me this way, but not Chuck. I got to find more people like Chuck. And I just want you to know that you stood out for all the right reasons in my life. You stood out for all that is good. And I pray that you are in heaven. I pray your family's okay. I pray they'll be okay. But we're better because we knew you. I'm better because I knew you. And I pray that someday, when I make it to heaven, hopefully I'm 150 years old, but when I get there, I pray that I see you. I pray that we shake hands. And as always, I pray you say it's good to see you. Because it was always good to see you, Chuck. That we're going to take a step aside, and I got to try and figure out how the heck any of this makes sense. But I love you. I send my love to your kids. I send my love to your wife. I send my love to the American Conference, to Tim Pernetti, to Mike Oresco, to Bernadette, to everybody that worked with you, to all of us people in the media that can probably all say the same thing. Not every interaction is great. But with Chuck, it was always great to see him. We'll be back after this. And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. A delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Kaz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City, coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. And very much appreciate you being here as we get ready to have Murph here on the broadcast. And Murph sent me a nice message on the break here. Said, "That was beautiful, bud. I could see just how much he meant to you. I know he's up there smiling down to you." Yeah, I didn't, you know, I know that I don't hide my emotion. I know I am who I am. Yeah, I'm the same person on the show that I am when I'm not doing a show. It's, you know, I think I'm an emotional person. You know, I show that. That's me. And I very much, you know, it's hard. It's very hard. It's very hard to think about these things because, you know, when you go to these events every year, there's certain things that I pretty much always do, right? Outside of COVID or outside of like a conflict of something crossing each other. When it came to the American, the answer is yes. Like if I can make it, I'm going. Like I'm trying to figure out, my dad and I are going on a vacation, and during the vacation is the American Football Championship. I'm trying to figure out how I can go. Like I can't go, but I'm trying to figure out how I can go. I'm trying to be like, "Hey Dad, I know we're in Orlando, but do you want to take a quick flight over to wherever the thing's going to be, because it's at the home of the number one team, right? The top team in the American gets to host the American Football Championship." But we don't know who that's going to be because the conference has been so good this year. There's so many teams that literally have been beating each other, but they're all strong, that we don't know where the championship's going to be. But if for some reason, somehow, some way, it ends up in like a place that's close to Orlando, I feel like going, "Hey Dad, do you want to go?" Just because when it comes to the American, I never like saying no. And just so the American knows, if I ever had to say no, it's because I literally was somewhere else or I was sick. Like it wasn't just like, "I'm sitting at home, I just don't feel like it." You know, that's why I wore this today. I wore this for Chuck. You know, Chuck Sullivan, Bernadette, and Mike, you know, the former commissioner, Mike Oresco. I mean, those people made me feel so valued, so appreciated all the time. And, you know, they helped. And Chuck, I mean, this makes no sense to me. This makes no sense. Like seeing your picture in black and white, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Not for like the next 40 years. So, like I told my parents yesterday, there is no time to waste. And I've really struggled in life with worrying about things and letting things consume me. And Chuck's passing was like, it wasn't even like God going, hey, I just want to let you know again that it was like God going, there's no more time for you to waste. There's none. None. And, I get it. I get it. And so we got to spend our time wisely, folks. And, the American was always in good hands with Chuck. And I know that God will lead them and guide them and keep them in good hands. I'm going to miss you, buddy. And I just want you to know how appreciated you are. You are always doing so much and working so hard. So the interactions, when you try to tell Chuck how much you love him and appreciate him, he might go, yep, thank you so much. And because he would just keep, but you are loved, Chuck. And, people like me on those nights that didn't make sense when I was crying and screaming and trying to figure things out, when I wondered why this world was beaten down on somebody just pushing to try to do the right thing, you always appreciated that. And it's people like you that helped give me the energy and the fuel. When you get that, like, you have to be your own source. God is your source, right? And then you have to bring it from within. But it never hurts to have that energy outside of you that's like, hey, you got this, man. You got this. And Chuck, you gave fuel to a kid whenever I needed it. You gave fuel to somebody who was always just trying to do things the right way. And always will. And I just want you to know that I thank you for that. And I appreciate you. And I hope God sends you to me in a dream or somehow, some way, because I just want to know you're okay. So I love you, and I will miss you. This logo means far less to me if I didn't meet you. And that is no disrespect to the conference. It just, you are the American. And part of the reason why I care so much about the conference is the people. It's always the people. It always goes back to the people. And I would not have the relationship I have with this conference if not for people like you, Chuck. So, to me, you were the essence of it. And you always will be. And I hope that they carry on your legacy in a way that is fit and respectful to the ideals and the values and the way that you treat people. I hope that other people meet people in the American and get to say things that I got to say about you. And just thank you. Thank you for making hard days easier. I could always rely on you. I could always lean on the fact that if nobody else, Chuck's got my back. So, I love you. And I miss you. And we're going to be okay. I hope I get to be around your family at some point in my life, and I hope I get to tell them how wonderful you are. Not that they have to hear it from me, but I just want to be able to tell the people that you spent most of your time with how much you've touched the lives of other people, and that when they were away from Dad and, they didn't see their husband, or they didn't see their friend or their son, that I can say, hey, he was out here kicking butt for us so much, and every time he was away from home, he was being amazing. And I just hope that his family can have peace and know that they are loved and valued, and that I'm praying for you, So that's what we're going to do. Before we jump into DT and Murphy, we're going to say a prayer. That's what we do on this show. That's what we do on the air and off the air. And if I had a gun to my head, it's the same thing I would do. This world needs a heck of a lot more of it, and that's what we're going to do. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, I come to you today humbly. I come to you today understanding that life is not forever, but through you. Life is not meaningful, but through you. Life is not given, but through you. And life is not everlasting, but through you. I ask you to take the soul today of Chuck Sullivan. I ask you to lift him up on high, to put your perpetual light on him, to welcome him home, to hug him tightly for all of us that want to smile. I pray that the words that you say to Chuck, that you have said, are well done, good and faithful servant. I hope that that gate opens to him, welcomes him home to his family that is already passed on, his loved ones that are already up in heaven, and that his loved ones here on earth will be safe and sound, that everyone whose life he touched is safe and sound, and that we're all with our loved ones here on earth, keeping the memory and the spirit of Chuck alive in treating people with kindness, generosity, goodness, letting people be seen, noticed, felt, appreciated, understood. May we make sure that the legacy of Chuck Sullivan always endures, always perseveres, always lives on by simply treating people well. May we all be connected through you. May all of us that love Chuck dearly always be with him and him with us, even in death, because dying you destroyed our death, and rising you restored our life. Jesus, you have the power to raise us all from the dead, and I pray that everyone who has passed on has been risen, is in heaven, is safe and sound, that the devil has not one soul, that everyone has repented, that everyone is sitting at the table of their Father, and that the Holy Spirit is inside of us today and every day, building up our soul, guiding us, guarding us, helping us to hear your voice from on high. May our hearts be strong, our minds be strong, our bodies be strong, our souls be strong, and may you help lift us up in times of great peril, times of great pain and hurt, as well as in times of great goodness and gifts and blessings. May we always appreciate you in the ups and the downs. May we always be consistent with you. May we strive to truly not just be made in your image and likeness, but to act like it, to remember it, to value it. God, I love you. I value you. I honor you above all things, all people, all places. And I ask you today to take care of my friend. I ask you today to take care of everyone I love, everyone I value, and to take care of everybody that hates me, to take care of all of their loved ones, to take care of everyone who doesn't value me, who doesn't value anyone out there. I pray for everyone who does good and everyone who doesn't do good, that those that do good will continue to do good, and those that don't will change and turn toward you and do good. I pray for the soul of every man, woman, child, animal, plant, tree, everything that has life. It was given life by you. May we remember that, remember you, put you first in this country, in this world, on this planet, in this universe, and across the multiverse of life. May we all sing for the one true God and make clearly our voices are for you, to you, and may they only speak goodness upon you and others and ourselves. In Jesus' most precious name we pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. With that being said, I welcome my buddy into the show, Mr. Murph. It's DT and Murphy. Murph was not with us last week because he was on vacation. He doesn't get to do that a lot, so I hope he had a good time. and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Of course, today we'll be speaking on college football week 12. I was up at 2 something this morning putting my top 25 together because I love what I do what I love you all, and I love the conversation. So my top 15's done. Still working on that bottom part, but the top 25 will be released soon, and obviously Murph and I can talk about it because my top 10 is locked and top 15 is locked as well. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into potential college football playoff field thoughts, and we'll also speak on NFL Week 11 and moving forward with Murph's Jets and my Jaguars. So with that being said, Murph, welcome back to the show. I hope you had a wonderful vacation. Oh,
It was great. It's good to be back, and I also wanted to just say that was a beautiful tribute to your friend, and I send my my thoughts and prayers to you and to his family as well. Um, it's been one of those years, man, that we're losing way too many people, and it makes you kind of just stop and think for a minute about people you love and who you're close to, and just telling them like, hey, I love you, I appreciate you. Those words can just go, can go a long way. And anytime that you get to spend with loved ones is always a great thing. So just wanted to mention that before we got too far into it. That, and I know you always spoke so highly of him, so I'm sorry for your loss, my friend.
no, and I mean, I appreciate that. And, you know, he's just special. He's a special guy. And, he's a special guy because he chose to be. This wasn't like, oh, this was his choice in his life. His choice in his life was to make a difference. His choice in his life was to be kind. His choice in his life was to be good. If Chuck ever had like a moment where like he was angry or upset or sounded different, you would say it's uncharacteristic. And that's one of the best compliments that you can give to somebody, is to be like, oh, like if somebody was short, if they didn't talk to you, if they didn't get back to you right away or something like that, that it was uncharacteristic, that his normalcy was all positive stuff. Like when somebody, like if somebody ever was to like yell or something like that, and people go, wow, why are they yelling? That's so weird. And that's what I'm describing when I'm describing Chuck. It's like, not the yelling part, but like the part of like, he brought so much good and positive. And like, if I didn't get an email from him, I would be like, wow, that's so weird that I didn't hear from Chuck today, because like you were so used to it. So his normalcy was all the good stuff. And like, if I went into a grocery store and saw Chuck like getting mad and, like punching at a screen that wasn't working, I'd be like, Chuck, are you okay? Because like, I've never seen you mad before. So, it's a great compliment to people. It's a great compliment to people when you can say that like the typical Chuck Sullivan was kind, courteous, consistent, genuine, real, and he just always made you feel like you just mattered so much. And you do. I mean, that's God, right? That's God. God is always trying to tell us, like, don't look at that Facebook post. You matter. Don't worry that that person didn't give you a job. You matter. Don't worry that that girl said those horrible things about you. You matter. Don't matter that that guy did that to you. You matter. Like, he showed us God. He showed us God by saying all the time, in just the way he always has acted, that you mattered. I could get off the phone with somebody, talk to Chuck, and it was like, whatever negative you got, there's a positive. Whatever email you got was negative, here's a positive. And Chuck was the positive. And that's the beauty of it, man. And it warms my heart to hear you say that I always spoke highly of him, because when I talk in my life, I'm just talking. But I know I mention him a lot. And like I said, I think about those emails. I think about that stuff all the time. I can't say how many times I said that email I got from him one day. I was on the American teleconference for football when they used to do it every Monday, and I was on the teleconference for like 2 hours. I asked questions to every coach, and just every week, if I was sick, I was still sitting on the phone, dry throat, trying to get my questions in. And Chuck sent me an email, and he was like, "I just want to tell you thank you." He said, "So many people sit on this call and they don't ask questions. You're one of the few people that ask questions, and I just wanted to let you know that we appreciate you, like that they value me." And he always made me feel that way. So, you know, it's nice to hear that you remember me talking about him. That makes me feel good, because he should be talked about. So, how was your trip?
It was good. It was too short, to be honest, if you ask me, even though we were there for over a week. Um, we had a good time, played a lot of golf, caught a lot of fish. Well, I caught a lot of fish in one day, and then I didn't catch anything else the rest of the trip. No, we had a great time. Got to hang out with some of my best friends, and we had a blast doing it. Um, Shared some adult beverages and had a good time doing that. But yeah, it was a great time. I would love to go back. The car ride was fun, even though I don't particularly like sitting in a car for 10 hours or however long it actually ended up being. But we had a good time. We definitely had a good time. It was definitely weird not doing the show on Monday. Um, but we had with everything going on with the trip, and we had some stuff going on Monday morning, and obviously I couldn't make it work, but glad to be back at the usual Monday routine.
Yeah, well, and that's that's that makes me feel good, right? Because if there's a big difference between it feels weird not doing the show on the Monday, and thank God I don't have to do the show on Monday. So, I'm happy to have you back. I was able to, obviously we're able to do, things we got to do and adjust, and you would let me know ahead of time and all that. But yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm used to, and it's something
Hmm.
that you just kind of, you're like, I got Murph.
It's part of the routine.
Right. But again, there's a big difference between I want to do this, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and I'm sad I didn't get to do it, and then, oh, thank God I don't have to do it. So it makes me feel good that you said it was weird not doing the show, as opposed to I'm happy that I didn't have to. So like that's and I felt the same way. I mean, when I've been able to be a guest on other shows, and this and that, and like have reoccurring roles, and there was moment like I was celebrating my birthday, so I couldn't do the show that day. And so, but I felt bad. And it's still on my mind, and or you don't feel good, or you got a game or something like that, and you're trying to figure it out, and you want to make sure you do it. So that makes me feel good, Murph, that you appreciate this, because you know I always want
It's
to
fun.
create
It's
that environment.
it's it's how I keep my it's for me. It's how I keep my toes in the broadcasting world. So I mean, it's something even though I don't do it for a living, it's something I still enjoy. So I love that we still get to do this every week, and you know, obviously we'll take some holidays off, and we'll have some time where, just I can't make it on the show. Like I know, in December I'm getting sent out to California for TaylorMade to the Kingdom. Maybe we may not be able to do a show that day because I might be, sitting on a plane, or, sometimes we'll record the night before if we have to, or something along those lines. And we always try to find ways to make things work. And if we don't, it is what it's not a big deal. It is what it is. But yeah, it's just become part of the routine. I still obviously enjoy it. We have a good time doing it, and I think we usually provide some pretty good, some pretty entertaining college football debates.
Yeah.
Because it's especially when we get into talking about the Big Ten, and how they play. But yeah, it's nice to be back. I would never think that like not doing the show would mean I could sleep in. Like I don't sleep much past 8 o'clock anymore. So even if I sleep in, it's like 8:30. So I would still be awake for the show anyway.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, that's my thing. When I get up in the morning, like it's how I start my day. It's how I start my day. Like I start
Mm-hmm.
my day coming on the air and talking with all of you. And that, that I love. I love it. And I'm grateful that God lets me do what I love and love what I do. He doesn't have to. And, I always tell him, well, wherever you call me, whatever you call me to do, like I'm going. If you don't want me to, I won't. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I'm hoping to do. But it's whatever you want from me. And he's been really good, always great, fantastic, and I'm grateful that I get to wake up every day and this is my work is my play. And I work a lot and I do a lot. Friday night I was doing a doubleheader of basketball games. Saturday I was at a sectional championship high school football game, and then yesterday I was catching up with my parents and spending some time. And but it's the season just started for men's and women's basketball. I've already been to Binghamton games, already been to Syracuse games, already been to Bryan and Stratton college games, already been to Onondaga to OCC. And I mean, that's because I in my head, like to somebody where they're like, you should be sleeping. In my head, I'm always like, I do it like to the point where I feel like I've done the things I need. Like there's things on my mind. Like there's something I want to do for Mother's Cupboard, so I keep working on it and I keep trying to figure out ideas. Like I want to do this, I want to make sure I do this. And it's like, well, Dan, you could do it next week. I'm like, I want to do it this week. If I can get it done this week, I want to do it this week. So there, and I always tell that. And so if any of my clients are watching or listening, just so you all know, I'm thinking about you a lot. I'm constantly trying to figure out what I can do to help, and my heart's always in a good place. And that I hope that always comes through. I found out we've been doing this thing with Canine Campground where they have dogs that they're currently taking care of and putting them up for adoption, right? They get these dogs, they get them out of bad situations or situations that are not ideal, and they make sure the dogs have all their shots, that they're okay, that they're good, that they're well trained, that they're ready to go to a home, and they put them up for adoption. Well, I said to Lena, I said, would you like me, I think I'm going to shoot a couple videos. I'd like to shoot videos with the dogs. Well, we shot dogs for two videos for dogs. And the first dog that I put the video out for, Kingsley's been adopted. And now I put out the video for Zeus, and people already were responding about Zeus. So, like, stuff like that, right? Being a part of something. Wake up call. I mean, what I do at Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, this isn't, we sell commercials and you buy them and they, no, it's, I want to help people. I want to help the world. And to do something like this, which is just kind of an idea that came up in the moment, to do these like virtual profiles of these dogs, and then to find out one of them's been adopted, and now now it's Zeus's turn. And I'm really excited for the day that Zeus gets adopted, because to me that's beautiful. Like that's awesome. And Lena does a wonderful job, and she cares, and she just, she loves dogs. And what better place to bring your dog for an overnight stay than to somebody who loves and cares and is trying to figure out new ways to help and is trying to think about things that she can do to make your dog's life better, ideas that she has that maybe, you could try this food, or you could, do this with them, or the fact that you got to look at the heart of a human being who brings in dogs that are not hers and tries to do everything she can to put them up and get them adopted. Like, Canine Campground is there for you to bring your dog and for your dog to stay overnight and they'll feed your dog and take your dog out and make sure your dog's doing well. They'll give you updates and all this stuff. They don't have to do the dog adoption side of things. So she took that on to do even more, to say, I'm going to take care of your dog, and then I'm going to take care of dogs that don't have a home, and I'm going to try and get them one. So I don't just help businesses. I help people that I really feel like are good and they have good hearts. I got to see Jimmer a few days ago, and it'll never get old when Jimmer turns and looks at me and he just says, he just mouths, he just says, I love you. And I said, I love you too, brother. So, life is good, and I'm happy to get to do what I do. I'm happy that I get to do it here with you, Murph. And we're going to talk about college football week 12. So I have a lot of thoughts.
Can I actually bring something up real quick that's not related to college basketball, but it is related to college athletics?
Yes.
Did you see that the University of Scranton women's basketball team beat Pittsburgh? How awesome is that?
D3, baby.
Now,
don't hate.
Granted, the University of Scranton's women's basketball team is a powerhouse.
True.
Granted, years ago, but having seen them firsthand and how that program works, they are stupid good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, this is a team that competes for Division III national championships every year. That athletics department in general is competing for national championships. My cousin Colleen and her husband Matt are the coaches of the men's and women's basketball team. Men's and women's soccer teams.
Yeah.
My cousin Colleen she has gotten her team to the NCAA tournament more times than I can count. I think her staff got named Staff of the Year in the Landmark Conference. I'm not 100%. I think that was, and that's not the first time that happened this year. She's amazing at what she does, and she also works in the athletics department. The school, as an athletics department, is incredible.
Yeah.
The women's basketball team is unreal. They just beat Pitt, who is, and we're not talking about them going and beating like some random team from, a conference that nobody's heard of and a team that's maybe just made the transition to Division I. This is the ACC.
Yeah.
This is Pitt. Pitt is not exactly what I would call a bad basketball school.
No. Not at all.
That's a big win.
It's a massive win. It is a massive, it's a jump of 2 divisions. Like, my brain, when Marywood men's basketball lost to Binghamton men's basketball, then they're an hour apart, years ago, and they lost by like 23 or 24, somewhere around there. I was like, to jump 2 divisions, that's kind of like almost a win, because you should lose by like 80, and and they didn't. So, I mean, to see that happen, I saw that pop up last night, and I just thought,
I just smiled when I saw it.
I already have, for top dog of the week, I already have multiple things I could pick, and that's on the list. And so
that's got to be on the short list.
Yeah, so I may have more than one, but the Scranton women's basketball team, University of Scranton's just, they're a powerhouse, they're a threat, they're tough, and you hear about them. You hear, I've heard about them for years upon years upon years, so my butt's got to get out to a game, but I'm super, super proud of them. I'm happy for them. I think it's great. Great for the city of Scranton, great for the university, great for Division III athletics. I'm proud to have been recruited Division III for basketball. So, Division III, listen, I've been fighting my whole life. I started my career putting y'all out there saying, stop looking at divisions and let's just celebrate people. And so Scranton, your women's basketball team just gave a massive stamp to me saying Division III athletes are athletes too, and we need to talk about them. So shout out to your victory for beating Pittsburgh.
Coming from a Division III athlete, keep in mind, some people that go play Division III sports, they're not playing because they want to go to the next level. They're playing because they still love their sport and they want to be able to play it at a higher level.
They love the game.
Yeah.
They love the game.
I barely played in 2 years of college baseball.
Yeah.
I came to the plate 16 times in 2 years. 16. 3 walks, 4 hits. I got on base in 7, actually 8. I reached on an error. I kept playing because I still love the game of baseball. I still love the game of baseball. If I could play tomorrow, I would. I don't know if I'm physically capable of playing anymore. Between my shoulder and the fact that, I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat right now. Especially considering last year when I was coaching baseball, the first 10 fungo swings I took, I swung and missed. But they play because they still love the game.
Yeah.
All of the basketball players I covered at Marywood for 4 years, especially the ones that I was close with, they played because they love the game. They played because they enjoy it. Do they want to win? Do they want to keep playing after college? Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
But 99% of them know that it's probably not going to happen. So they go out there, they enjoy themselves, they play to win, and whatever happens, happens. That's why when we did Murph versus the Pacers my senior year, that was so much fun. Because, me having played basketball in high school and still playing, here and there, I could, I was never good. There's no shot I could have played in college, but, I was an okay player. It was fun to see how I stacked up against these guys. And you saw that they are just that much better. And I was a good athlete. I still consider myself to be a pretty good athlete. But I got embarrassed by these guys and girls. But it was fun to do. And I knew I was going to lose every single one of them. And the one that I did win, it was a freaking fluke. It became a half-court shot contest, and I just happened to make the first one. So, that was... I still have all of those, and I'll go back and watch them every once in a while. Just because they're fun. But it's the D3 athletes, and the D3 athlete is a type of person and type of athlete that goes very much unnoticed sometimes.
Yeah.
And you do see Division III athletes at the professional level. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens. There are Division III players in the NFL. There are Division III players in Major League Baseball and in the minor leagues. They are there. I don't know about NBA, but I know for a fact they are there in professional baseball and in the NFL. They are there. And Division II as well.
Yeah. I
couldn't tell you the amount of ESU guys that, I know personally that have gotten drafted into professional baseball, that have gotten drafted into the NFL. Maybe I don't know those guys personally, but, I've seen from firsthand experience, seeing it ESU, seeing it Marywood, at Scranton, wherever, that these guys can go and play professionally. There are some that play professionally.
Yeah. And
those people are definitely not appreciated enough. But it was definitely cool to see a D3 program. And it's not just any D3 program. This is a D3 program that I knew all too well. Our women's team played them 4 years. So we saw them play every year. And they got better every year. And we got blown out a couple of times. And it sucks that when you're covering a game that's a blowout, especially when you're on the losing end of that blowout.
Yeah.
But you can appreciate the team that you're seeing. A team that's literally that was literally in our backyard. I went out on Friday and Saturday nights with people from the U. And yes, to me, I know Miami is the U. To somebody that went to college in Scranton, the University of Scranton to us is the U. We know that. And I'm sure you do too. I'm sure you remember from when you were on campus. So
there was the wood in the U. I guess so.
We didn't necessarily get the wood, but it was definitely the U.
Yeah. No, I'm saying for Marywood.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard it a few times. I don't think it was as common as the U, but we hung out with people from there all the time. I knew plenty of people from there. I did get that was potentially on my short list of schools to go to. I would need a lot of financial aid. I did get in. Like I applied. I did get in. So I could have gone there if I so chose, but I chose to go to Marywood, particularly because of the broadcasting program, and it was the best decision of my life.
Yeah.
But to me, seeing that, I mean, I know I'm not on Fridays, but I'll say it right now, they'd be my top dog of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and they're right down the road from each other. Like you can
literally
like
5-minute drive.
Marywood is in an arboretum. For those of you that don't know, that means that there's a lot of beautiful trees and foliage, and it's very scenic. And we have deer, and it looks like we're in the middle of nowhere, but we're right down the street from the University of Scranton, which is in the city. But they're like together, and they function as
the electric city.
Like Marywood's by itself in this community, but Scranton is like dropped right in the city of Scranton. The University of Scranton's there, but they're so close, like 4 miles apart or whatever it is. So
you can walk from one to the other.
Right.
I know. Yeah. I did it twice.
And there's a really cool
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
There's a really nice castle looking thing in between, and that is a jail. So like there's a jail right there. I remember one of the days, I think they said they're like, so it was like during the day.
That's
someone
like right by Scranton Prep, isn't it?
Someone had broken out of the jail, and so there's Andy Gavin's. It's Andy Gavin's the jail, and then down the road the Scranton Prep is there.
It's Prep, yeah.
And so and the mall's there, the mall at Steamtown, and all this. I mean, the things that you see when you see the intro of The Office, that stuff is downtown. Some of it got moved. The sign for the University of Scranton,
I think, is in the Steamtown Mall.
They had to move it, I think they said, because so it was like under a bridge going around a bend, and I think they said so many people were stopping to take pictures, but it was like on a road. So, yeah. So,
imagine if they actually shot that in Scranton.
Do you know
what that would be like?
Do you know that Marywood was supposed to be in the intro?
Really?
So, allegedly, the people that brought us this show, The Office, the Americanized version of it with Steve Carell and John Krasinski and crew, and Ed Helms and all of them, this TV show wanted the Marywood crest. They wanted to show the Marywood crest in the intro. And Marywood, allegedly, again, because I was not in the room, they would not let them because it said Marywood College instead of Marywood University, and it was like false advertising. And I'm like, oh my gosh, college, university.
Oh my
people don't know the difference.
They have no
idea. If it says Marywood, it's Marywood. So Marywood's crest allegedly was supposed to be in the intro, to be shown in every episode of The Office for whatever it ran, is 7-8 seasons. And they said no because it said college and not university.
You know how much bigger Marywood would be if that was actually in there?
Yeah, you and I would be walking around. People go, "Where you go to school?" Marywood. Oh my God, The Office. Oh my God,
yeah.
It would be like there would be so much for Marywood. There'd be more money donated. There'd be people visiting. There'd be more people going there. There'd be more people talking about it. There would be so many things.
I would have been able to go there if that was the case, though. To be honest with you. Well, for you at least, it was around the time The Office came out, so it probably wouldn't have had all that hoopla yet.
I started before The Office started, and the show was unveiled while I was already a student.
Yeah. So for you, it wouldn't have made a difference. For me, it very well could have. I don't know that I would have ended up going to Marywood if that was the case, but I mean, realistically, I wasn't going to Marywood until I set foot on campus.
Yeah.
I was going to ESU. That was basically signed, sealed, delivered. And I was going to try to walk onto the baseball team. Which, not that I would have been any good at the Division II level, but I had a relationship with the coach already, and he kind of told me, like, if you came out and tried out, like, there's a decent chance that we would have a spot for you. I probably wouldn't have played, but I would have been on the team. But still, like, I was dead set on ESU. I didn't even want to wake up to go to the Marywood open house. Literally. And my mom woke me up, got me out of bed, and then by 3 o'clock that afternoon, I was going to Marywood.
Yeah.
Well, at least until that's not entirely true. We got in touch with the baseball coach at the time, who came and saw me at a showcase at the University of Scranton, coincidentally, and I did recruiting overnight in February, and I committed the next day. So it was, like I said, that was signed, sealed, delivered, and it was very quick change. Because, like I said, I was going to ESU. It was set in stone.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a buddy that went there. It's actually very close to you, which I did not even know how close it was.
It is.
It's so.
Yeah. My high school was right behind it.
Yeah, but it's so.
My commute would have only changed by about 30 seconds.
It's so wild that, like, I dated someone, and it was not. There was a lot of toxicity, and that at any given time during that toxicity, I had no idea that I could have just called up Murph and been like, hey, Lily and I, like, it's the middle of the night, but this is a really bad situation. Can we just come, crash over there or come say hi or whatever? And
I would have said yes.
And so, and let it be known, Murph hasn't been right a lot on the show, but the one time he was right, I'm kidding. But the one time he was right, the one time is when I told Murph I have a date with this girl, and he said to me, well, if you want to come by, just come and see me. And he said it a few times. And then I said, yeah, well, I'm supposed to have this date. And he was like, yeah, okay. But, like, for some reason, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't pan out, like, you can just come over and see me. And I should have went to go see Murph. So
I could never drive 3 hours to go on a single date like that. To me, that's I applaud you.
I was a boyfriend. But I was a boyfriend driving 10 months, 3 hours down, 3 hours back. So
I could never.
I drove 6 hours.
I could never, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, I did for a bit. I hope she's good. I hope she's okay. I think she has a dog now, so I hope her and the dog are doing well and all that good stuff. So I always hope the best for my exes. I have no qualms whatsoever. I got to find my lady. They got to find their man. I hope they do. I hope I do. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick step aside for a fast break. When we come back, Murph and I are going to discuss the current state of college football. We will discuss the rankings. I will tell you why the almost best case scenario happened for the SEC and why Notre Dame shouldn't be where they are. But anyways, we'll talk about it. It makes no sense. All I've heard for days and days are people going, they passed the eye test. They passed the eye test. They passed the eye. This is not an ocular exam. This is football. We'll talk about it right after this.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing. And so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing, amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and then those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and that's part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're hopping right into the college football world and giving you our thoughts on how things are currently in college football. We're through 12 weeks. Feels like week 1 was right? That week 3 just happened. But no, we're in week 13 of college football. And I am here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios with Murph on DT and Murphy to talk with you about many a sports topic. The one that I would like to discuss first in college football is how the SEC almost had the perfect situation happen. So, there's still a lot to be said, but the SEC, because they play meaningful games in November, they're not playing Wisconsin and Purdue and Penn State and...
Hey, Penn State won the last this week. They finally won a game.
7 tries. 7 tries. Murph,
I'm
before
just kidding.
this past week, Penn State was 3-6, 0-6 in the Big Ten. Penn State's only wins were in their garbage schedule of non-conference, which included an FCS opponent. So they're only claim. So how about this? If you put Penn State's record and Syracuse's record next to each other, Syracuse has better wins than Penn State, and they're only 1 win behind Penn State. So kind of crazy how this year has shaken out. But I'm going to tell you a situation with the SEC here, because the SEC plays meaningful games, and they get punished for beating each other when the Big Ten is playing the snooze fest. So you can, if you woke up on Saturday morning and you thought, I'm going to sleep a little bit longer, and you didn't hit the alarm, you hit snooze, and you slept through the Ohio State, if you slept through these games, no big, because they're not games. This is like a walkthrough. Like Indiana playing Wisconsin, not a game. Not a game. Now, Alabama played Oklahoma. Georgia played Texas. These are college football playoff games happening in the regular season. The best case scenario, and I put this up on social media this past weekend. I said the best case scenario for the SEC is if, and this is not what I say I wanted to happen, this is the best case scenario. So the best case scenario for the SEC was if Alabama lost to Oklahoma and Georgia lost to Texas, because that would make all 4 teams 8-2. It would not take away what Alabama and Georgia have already done, because they have multiple quality wins, more than Indiana, more than Ohio State, more than Texas A&M in their own conference, more than Notre Dame by 10 miles. So that would be the best case scenario, is that Texas won and Oklahoma won, so everybody's 8-2, but nobody's out of it, because you're not going to drop Alabama that far, you're not going to drop Georgia that far, and it gives you quality wins for these other teams. Now, I say that it almost happened because half of it happened. Oklahoma's relevancy was literally hanging in the balance, because Texas beat Oklahoma. If Texas had won, Texas was very much into it. But if Oklahoma had lost, I think Oklahoma would have been out. I don't think Texas is out. I think they need some help. I think they need some help, but you have to wait. They have 3 losses. But if they beat Texas A&M, and Texas A&M's undefeated at the time, now Texas is your 12th team. So, arguably. So, Texas, because they got a really tough schedule, you got to play Alabama and Texas A&M in your last 3 weeks, when Indiana's playing Maryland and Wisconsin and Purdue. So when you look at, and I'm not trying to knock any of those schools, I'm sheerly talking about record and where teams are at. I'm not talking about who has value. Everybody has value. So when the SEC has Oklahoma beat Alabama, when that happens, now Alabama's not out of it. Alabama's still a top 10 team, in my opinion. They're actually higher than 10, in my opinion. So, because they beat 4 ranked teams in a row, they beat 5 of 6 they beat 5 of 6. Not only did they win 5 of their last 6 games, they were against ranked teams. So,
I think the committee's going to see that and agree with you.
And I
think the AP dropped them too far.
Right, they definitely did, and I don't even look at the coaches poll because I don't know who's voting there. So
it's irrelevant.
So, and I'll tell you where I have
completely
Alabama.
Irrelevant.
But Alabama losing to Oklahoma, especially only by 2. Alabama's in good shape. Oklahoma's in good shape. Georgia blows out Texas. Georgia's in good shape. The only one of that almost perfect scenario that I had going into the weekend for the SEC is that because Texas lost, now they have to beat Texas A&M. And they have to win their game in between. But that's where we're at. Okay? I think Vanderbilt still has a shot. Honestly, as we look at this thing this morning, I'll tell you where I'm at. This is my top 10.
I'd still put in Vanderbilt over Texas at this point.
Right. So this is my top 10. Like I said, up at like 2:47 in the morning working on this stuff. But this is my top 10 for you. I have not released my top 25 this week. This is why you listen to Wake Up Call live, because you get to hear it before I release it on social media. Happy to be inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, and we are worldwide on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Going into college football week 13, here we go. Number 1, and I'm reluctant with this stuff because I do not think these are the best teams in America, but they are undefeated, and some of the losses that were had, just like when Alabama was 8-1, I told people, I said it all last week, Alabama's the best team in the country. Now that Georgia's 9-1, I'm going to argue that Georgia's the best team in the country. My top 10, though, because they're still undefeated, although they did not really play. Ohio State has 1 quality win. They're 10-0. I have them at 1. Indiana's 11-0. They have 2 quality wins at Oregon, at Iowa. They're at 2. Texas A&M came back, and this is why Texas A&M is 3 and not 2. I said when Indiana came back and barely beat Penn State that, it's a great catch, but you shouldn't have to take all of that in the end of the game and 1 play to barely beat a bad team. And Texas A&M barely beat a bad team. So I could not say Texas A&M's 27-point comeback is awesome as it was and as incredible as it was against South Carolina if I don't argue that Indiana's win over Penn State, who had the same record at the time, 3-6, if I say you barely beat a bad team, I can't put Texas A&M above Indiana when they barely just beat a bad team. So that's why Texas A&M's still at 3, because I'm a person that won't make an argument for someone and then against somebody else because that's hypocrisy, but it happens all the time. So I'm very strategic in how I pick these because I'm not going to get called out saying, well, you did this for them, but you didn't do this for them. My fourth is Georgia. They take the place of Alabama. They're 9-1. My fifth is Ole Miss because Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. That's why they're fifth, and that's why Oklahoma.
But they barely beat a bad team, Dan.
But you also look at their wins. You also look at their wins.
I'm just kidding about that one.
Right. No,
I'm just kidding about that
I
one.
know.
Can I just say, though, that there were a couple very suspect things that happened in that Ole Miss Florida game that very much makes me question the validity of that win for Ole Miss.
Right. But there's the
defensive pass interference flag that was picked up.
Yeah.
Which was an obvious pass interference. And then you had on a damn punt, the Ole Miss guys were pushing the Florida guy to the ball. I don't know. Hey, I know the Ole Miss, fans are starting to freak out that they might be losing Lane Kiffin, and it's starting it's starting to feel more and more like he is going to leave, and it's feeling like more and more like he is going to be coming to us, to Gainesville, to the Swamp. But let's not, do that at, Florida if you do end up coming. And you better believe I will be ecstatic if Lane Kiffin becomes the next head coach at Florida. But hey, whatever. We almost ruined your season 2 years in a row. We did it last year. I guess we couldn't do it this year. So I guess Lane's going to say, hey, if you can't beat him, join him.
Well, and just so you know, when I was on the committee calls, because after the College Football Playoff Committee, after they make their decisions, I'm very blessed as a member of the media that covers the College Football Playoff that I get to, I get these emails, constant communication with the CFP, which I thank them and I thank their committee for. And I get to be on the teleconference after they make their picks where we can ask questions and hear different things. And I just want to let you know that they still have given South Florida, now they didn't do this week's call, that's on Tuesday, but they gave South Florida credit more than we have in recent, like South Florida beating Florida at the time and Boise State at the time were beating ranked teams. The committee itself, the College Football Playoff Committee that ranked South Florida 24th last week, are still giving them credit for beating Florida and for beating Boise State. Just so you know, they are still giving them respect for that. So,
well, they better fall out of the rankings this week because they lost again.
They did lose again, and it's opened the door for a lot of people to be in. I think there should be multiple teams in that are not your usual suspects. I think Tulane should be in. I think North Texas should be in, who's having a hell of a season. I think Navy should be back in, the way that they came back. And East Carolina, they still got a shot to fight for an American championship. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, but I want to make sure I go through my top 10 here. So my number 5 is Ole Miss. My number 6 is Oklahoma, because Ole Miss beat them head-to-head. My number 7 is Alabama, because Oklahoma beat Alabama. That only moves Alabama, in my world, from 4 to 7, which to me makes more sense, because who do I have them above?
Agreed.
Oregon, who has one quality win against Iowa, who's no longer ranked. And it depends on where teams finish, not where you played them, because there are people that are ranked where they're not supposed to be. And I think looking at where a team finished based on if you beat them or lost to them is important to look at how they finished and not where they were ranked, because rankings sometimes are strategic, I think, and putting teams in certain places, making them look like they're better than they are. Then I put Texas Tech at 9, who's 10-1. I could move Texas Tech to 8. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this in the moment. I'm moving Texas Tech to 8 because I'm looking between them and Oregon, and I think Texas Tech should be at 8 because I think Texas Tech is a more dangerous team, and in a head-to-head matchup, I think Texas Tech could beat Oregon. So I like Oregon.
And that's the way the rankings should be.
Right, and I like Oregon. I do, but they have one quality win. And then I have Vanderbilt at 10 with a record of 8-2. Some people might disagree with me on this, but I've risen this team up. Now, I didn't agree with their rise last week when they beat Syracuse, but I did rise this team up this week. And again, it's because I'm looking at the teams below them. I look at your record, I look at who you beat, I look at who you lost to, and then I look at all the teams that could be in that spot, and who would I place? Who do I think you're better than? So Miami's my number 11. And Notre Dame is my number 12. They're not in my top 10. They're not in my top 9. They've done almost nothing. Their best win is against Pittsburgh, who the AP and the coaches poll did not respect this year. The CFP did. But their best win is against Pittsburgh, and they blew them out. Here's why.
Can we also just point out the fact that you also just said a couple minutes ago that you think Navy should be ranked again, and Notre Dame beat the brakes off of them, or not Navy? Navy.
Yeah.
Or was it Army? No, it was Navy.
It was Navy.
That because you.
And where would I rank them though?
Look,
25.
You've been ranking. I know, but what I'm saying is you've been beating the drum for them to be ranked, and rightfully so. They played well this year.
They did, and they had a bad week, and then they had a good week.
But what I'm saying though is that if we think they should be ranked, we need to give Notre Dame credit for that win, and they blew them out. Granted, they usually always blow them out.
Yeah,
but. If we think Navy should be ranked, we got to give Notre Dame some credit for that win. And I think you did by having them ranked at 12.
Right. So Notre Dame beats Navy. Notre Dame. Now, Navy, to me, that's a quality win for Notre Dame. I will agree with you on that. And beating Pittsburgh is a quality win. Beating USC is not. It's not. USC's best win is Michigan. Michigan's best win is nobody. So the team that beat nobody, Michigan is not in my top 25. They have 0 ranked wins. They played 1 ranked team, and they lost by double digits. Michigan is only ranked once again because they're in the Big Ten and their name is Michigan. That is the only reason. There is no logic to Michigan being ranked in the top 25. Not over other teams, because if you say, well, James Madison, they haven't beat.
There will be when they beat Ohio State again.
if that happens,
I would die laughing if that happens again.
If it happens, then they should be in the polls. But up until that,
theoretically, they might talk themselves into the playoff if they do that.
But up until that, if they barely beat Purdue. Because I do also look at how you win. When you beat Purdue 21-16, and Purdue's one of the worst teams in the FBS, not in the Big Ten, in the 136 FBS schools. So when you barely beat a bad team, when Michigan barely squeaks by in a couple of these games, and none of them are ranked, and none of them were ranked, none of them should be ranked, none of them are ranked, and then I say, okay, USC, what did you do to be ranked? Oh, you beat Michigan.
Also beat Iowa.
USC lost to who? Michigan or USC beat Iowa? Yes, most recently.
USC did beat Iowa.
Most recently. So, that's why
we've said that's a quality win for
and that's why USC
for Indiana and for Oregon. So that's
why USC's at the bottom of the top 25 to me, because Iowa
should be, yeah.
Iowa is no longer ranked. Okay? Again, it's where you finish too. So Iowa is that again with Indiana,
I still think Iowa's going to end up being ranked at the bottom. Like
Iowa's a good team. I'm not taking anything away from Iowa. Iowa's a good team, but you have to keep in mind something. USC beat Michigan, which doesn't matter to me because they did not beat a ranked team, and they only played one, and they're not going to play another one until they play Ohio State, and they're going to have to win that game. Speaking of Michigan, USC did beat Iowa this past week. USC lost to the team that lost by 53 to Indiana, which is Illinois. So USC, that's
a good point.
That's a horrendous loss, which is why USC has only squeaked into my top 25.
Is that as bad of a loss as we think, or is it just that
no, it's a bad
Indiana
loss.
Maybe is that good?
Illinois has done nothing.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
Illinois had no business being ranked. They have no business being ranked. they're not a good football team
Right.
this year.
So Indiana winning that game.
I still think Indiana's really good.
I will tell you this. Notre Dame beating Navy by their margin of victory, which still wasn't as much as how Indiana beat Illinois. But I consider a win over that Navy team to have more validity to a positive for Notre Dame than Indiana beating Illinois. Indiana beating Illinois is like Indiana beating Rutgers to me this year. It doesn't matter. And
Or Indiana beating a random Division III team that's at the bottom of Division III.
Right, Indiana beating Indiana State and all this stuff. So it doesn't
Indiana Southern or
right,
Indiana A&M.
Right. It doesn't make it.
That even exists.
There's no validity to it. So Vanderbilt is number 10. They went to number 10 because Texas lost and Vanderbilt continues to win. Miami's my number 11. Notre Dame is my number 12 because of the head-to-head that I would pick Notre Dame over my number 13, which is Georgia Tech, over my number 14, which is BYU, and over my number 15, which is Utah. Why is Utah ranked below BYU, who hasn't really played a lot of great teams? Because the one quality win the BYU has this year is over Utah. That's why Utah is below BYU. And then I have Texas at 16. So Texas, to me, fell from 10 to 16. I had them at 10 in the first week of the college football playoff rankings. I had them at 10. The committee did not. Then the committee put them at 10 this past week in week 2 of the rankings. And I've dropped them down 6 spots. We'll see where the committee drops them. But James Madison, North Texas, Navy, Tulane, SMU has 3 losses, but I put them higher than I put arguably a Tennessee. So, my 17 through 25 is interesting. But again, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. I can't argue Texas A&M's barely beating South Carolina to put them above Indiana, because I did not argue Indiana barely beating Penn State, putting them above Ohio State. So that's where we're at. And like I said, then Georgia, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama. So 4 through 7 is all the SEC. And then Texas Tech, Oregon, and Vanderbilt. I'm not dropping Alabama that far because they lost by 2 to a good Oklahoma team. They both have a record of 8-2, and Alabama has more ranked wins that actually should be ranked team. They have more quality wins than arguably anybody in the country right now. The one that I would question, because they haven't done anything this year, is why Missouri was ranked and why Missouri was ranked so high. So besides Missouri, I give Alabama credit for all of the stuff that they've done, that those ranked wins are actually ranked wins. And so that's what I have. That's where it's at. Still have Alabama in my top 10. I think feet to the fire. Georgia, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and maybe Texas make it to the college football playoff. I believe there's going to be 5 SEC teams in there.
How crazy would that if you see 7 SEC teams?
Well, I'm telling you,
I think we're getting at least 5, if not 6.
Yeah, we're getting 5.
I think 6 is a real possibility.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think now, Texas A&M,
I think you
Georgia.
get 6 from the SEC.
Yeah.
I think you get probably 3 from the Big Ten. So that's 9. You're going to have your group of 5 team, which at this point, it's probably either going to be James Madison. I think either James Madison or Tulane.
Yeah, I think Tulane's got a good shot.
I don't know that North Texas is North Texas in the American.
Yeah, right now North Texas.
I don't know that they're going to beat Tulane.
They're having
that's kind of why I think Tulane over North Texas.
And due to the outrageous discrepancy of the media's coverage of one conference to the next, North Texas has had the quietest 9-1 year of maybe arguably any team this year.
My only worry, but the main reason I think Tulane can beat them is North Texas got blown out at home by South Florida. They lost by 30. Just to kind of put that into perspective, folks. That's the main reason I don't feel that they would be the team. I think it's more likely going to be James Madison or Tulane. I don't see North Texas beating Tulane in the American Championship. Actually, wait a minute. Who would be in, Tulane or Navy?
If it happened today, Navy and Tulane would play each other, but North
Texas would be.
But North Texas and East Carolina, actually, they're all 5-1 right now. So Navy, I want to just take a look here really quick. So Navy lost to North Texas.
So Texas technically would be ahead of Navy.
So because this is the thing on some of these websites, folks, is that not all of the websites have the
Navy's
accurate thing.
6-1 in conference.
So Navy's
They played an extra conference game.
Oh yeah, I didn't look at that. So Navy is 6-1. I thought it said 5-1. So Navy's 6-1. But if for whatever reason North Texas and Navy end the season with the same conference record, North Texas is above them in head-to-head wins. And then I'm just looking at Tulane, who has the tiebreaker over East Carolina, because East Carolina is still in the mix for this as well. So Tulane would have the tiebreaker over East Carolina, and then North Texas, because they beat them head-to-head, and then North Texas would have it over Navy. So right now we're looking at Navy, Tulane, but we could see Navy, Tulane, North Texas, or East Carolina. South Florida would need a lot of help at this point. And like I said, the game is played in the home of the top team. So this game is either going to be in Annapolis, Maryland, New Orleans, Louisiana, Denton, Texas, or in Greenville, North Carolina. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this ends up. But shout out to the American that people are not talking about, that they have had, well, bowl team wise, they have 1, 2, 3. They have 6 bowl teams right now. They have the opportunity of having 9. Actually, no. They have the opportunity of having 10 or 11 bowl teams of their schools that they have within the conference. And just so you know, because they send the majority. They've sent the majority every year. So when you look, pretty much every year. So when you have 8, 9, 10, 11, they have 14 schools. I want to make sure I have my numbers right here. So out of 14 schools, 10 or 11 of the American teams may become bowl eligible. And Navy is 8-2 overall. Tulane's 8-2. North Texas is 9-1. East Carolina 7-3. South Florida 7-3. Memphis is 8-3 when we take a look at these teams currently. And East Carolina is a team that has risen through the ashes. North Texas has risen through the ashes. South Florida has risen through the ashes. Only Navy and Tulane were teams that had recent success. So again, the American Conference, that is not a conference that's typically having the same champion in back-to-back years, they once again should be spoken about, because there are conferences, Big Ten, that's top-heavy, that has 3 or 4 good teams out of 18, where the American right now has 4 teams vying to be in their championship, potentially 5 teams vying to be in their championship. And then to that point itself, just to make a quick add-on here, the ACC in its own right has 4 to 6 teams that are still vying to be in their championship game, the likes of Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pittsburgh, SMU, Miami, and Duke. So, and Louisville, losing recently, falling just outside of that. So I do want to give credit to the American that they're in a place right now where not only do they have multiple teams vying to play in their championship game, but they have the likes of East Carolina, who came out of the basement, and North Texas, who came out of nowhere too. And those are 2 huge stories that bring more credence to the reality and the notion that the American is not top heavy. It's not just one team, and they should be talked about, because East Carolina had a massive win over Memphis at home over the weekend, which literally just threw this whole thing even more into a tizzy, with the American Conference probably not going to get figured out until the bitter end of the last few seconds of the last week.
Yeah, and like I said, it seems like, and I don't know who North Texas plays at the end of the year. They play Rice and Temple. All right, they're probably not losing either one of those games.
And Temple's had a good year too. Temple's 1 win away from being bowl eligible.
Yeah, I mean, they could lose to Temple. I mean, if they lose to Temple, then they're basically done in any sort of college football playoff talk. And then you would have Navy and Tulane in the conference championship.
Yeah.
I still think it would be Tulane that would be the team to come out of that, personally, just kind of based on what we've seen from them this year. I don't see James Madison losing. I really don't. I mean, could they lose to Coastal Carolina? Maybe.
Yeah. They play
But,
spoiler.
they're going to end up playing Southern Miss, and most likely they're going to end up playing Southern Miss in the Sun Belt Championship. I don't see them losing. James Madison wins out, they're in. They will be the group of 5 team that gets a guaranteed spot, to me, which would leave the American on the outside looking in. And I don't see, I can't justify having Tulane, let's just say that Tulane wins the conference. I can't justify them over Vanderbilt. I can't justify them over a team like Utah or Miami or Georgia Tech. These are teams that are all ahead of them that are probably not going to make the playoff. So if I can't put them over those teams, I really can't justify putting them in over teams that are probably going to get in anyway. Obviously it depends on what happens in the Big 12. The Big 12 is going to have a really interesting conference championship situation. It's probably going to be Texas Tech and BYU, and the loser of that game, I think, very well could be out of the playoff. If Texas Tech wins, I think they are probably maybe the 5 seed in the playoff, or maybe even higher, depending on what happens with Georgia and Indiana, Ohio State, depending on what happens there. And if BYU wins, I think that'll knock Texas Tech out. I really do, personally. But just kind of looking a little bit deeper as far as teams that still, I think, it's in some semblance have a chance. I think if we go through our absolute locks right now, basically they would have to lose out in order to miss the playoff, and even then they might not miss the playoff. You got your 3 undefeateds, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. They're all, I think, locks at this point. I think Georgia's a lock even with 2 losses. I think Ole Miss is a lock even with 2 losses. Oregon with 2 losses, if they lose to USC, I would give it I would say maybe. Yeah. I think they'd still be in. I wouldn't call them a lock at that point.
Yeah.
I still think Alabama's going to win the SEC.
Yeah.
Actually, wait a minute. Well, if they get there. They beat Georgia head-to-head, so they have the tiebreaker over them. Did they beat Ole Miss? Did they play Ole Miss? No. I don't know how that part of the tiebreaker works.
You talking about Georgia?
No, for Alabama.
Oh, did they play Ole Miss? No.
They did not play Ole Miss.
They played pretty much everybody else, but they did not play
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I had a tough schedule. Do they need so it has Ole Miss ahead of them, so I guess Ole Miss technically would have the tiebreaker. They would. It looks like they would need Texas Tech or Texas A&M to lose.
It might go to common.
They may not get.
It might go to common opponents. So you'd have to break down Ole Miss, who has had a weaker schedule, to Alabama's, but you'd have to look at common opponents between the two of them of who did they play, which is what I did when I did my rankings that I just read off, my top 16 this morning. I did that. I looked at common opponents. I looked at who lost to who did what, why is BYU here. Basically, like I said before, I will not make a ranking unless I can argue it. And if I have not done my research and my due diligence, and I have not taken the time and I need to take more time, I'll admit it. I'll go back and I'll say, oh, okay, because this team beat this team and this did that. Now, some people might say, well, Dan, why would you put Texas below Oklahoma? Because Oklahoma lost to Texas. In those moments is 3 losses versus 2 losses. So there's other things that determine it. Mm-hmm. I do want to let you know this, which is crazy, but there's some conferences and there's some things where like the tiebreakers are wild. So I found out from the East Carolina head coach, Blake Harrell, who I just did a special with, and you should definitely go back and watch it. It was going into the Memphis game, but a lot of the conversation, very, very, kind of time capsule, right? Not time sensitive for the majority of it. So go back and check it out. Blake, great guest, had a great time talking with him on and off the air. But him and I were discussing it, and this is something crazy. So if every tiebreaker has not decided something, it can go in the American all the way to how are you ranked in the polls. So so if East Carolina is ranked below Tulane and they have the same record, like Tulane gets in to the American Championship over East Carolina. So it has to do with subjective viewpoints of media people that have no connection, arguably, to the conference instead of objectivity, which I think is wild because him and I were talking about it and he was like, just so you know, like we have to win, but then we might have to hope that somebody like gives us votes in the polls or else they're not going to get in, which to me would be insane, but not as insane as what some things are, where it's like if this tiebreaker and this one and this one and this one, that like the fourth tiebreaker is you simply flip a coin.
That's got to be like the most that's more fair than by ranking.
But think about how ridiculous.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Right, but think about how ridiculous that is. Think about the chance of you making it or not making it to
you can do.
Like you making it or not making it to a championship game, which is you making it or not making it to the college football playoff, which is all this money and extra practices and all these things and opportunities for your school is based on heads or tails.
I know a good tiebreaker. Play a game.
Yeah. How
game is the tiebreaker.
What if you play in a bridge?
You know what I miss about baseball now with the stupid tiebreaker rules? There is no more game 163.
Right.
You know how awesome that was? Just to get into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Or if you had one for a division, you had the team that wins the division goes to the division series, and the team that loses has to play tomorrow in the wild card round or game back then. That was awesome.
What if you did?
How awesome that would be.
What if you did it in like a shortened thing, or you did it like an overtime rule thing, where you say these two teams are going to play each other. You're both going to start on this. You got to score.
It's got to be a real game, though.
But if it's a full game, then they could talk about injuries and fatigue, and nobody else is playing this extra game, so they could.
Stop whining.
They could comment about
just
that.
Play. You want to play in your conference championship game, go on the field and beat the team that you're going against head to head and go play in your conference championship.
I would rather do that than trust that like the media is going to vote for me.
That's my point.
So like
it's the most fair solution. You got two teams that are tied. All these tiebreakers are not working. Just play a game. Even if you only play one half.
Well, play
a half a football game.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
At a neutral site.
That was my first initial thought, was play an abridged version, play one half, 2 quarters instead of 4 quarters, to see who can do it. Or you can play it extra, overtime rules or however they want to do it. But leave the teams in control of their own destiny. To get to a point where you're flipping a coin, you're in the control of how that person flips, what the wind is that day, sheer luck, how that coin falls. And then if it's up to the media, well, I told you, my badge says media, but if you ask me to trust the media, I would expect over 70% of them to stab me in the back and the rest of them to maybe help me or maybe just stare while I bleed out. But I'm not trusting the majority of the media to make the right decision, because a lot of the things that I see in polling seems to be based on some bias for conference, for school, for a certain player. And so if I'm East Carolina or anybody in that case, I don't want to have to rely on the media to make the decision, and I don't want the coin to make the decision. If it's me up against this team and we've passed every other potential tiebreaker, we've looked at head-to-head, we've looked at common opponents, we've looked at points for and points against, which I still think is ridiculous, because what if I win all my games by 1 and you win them by 20? I mean, if I win, I win. Be it by 1 or by 20, I still won those games. And if it's not a common opponent, we're not talking about you beat Tulane by 20 and I beat them by 1, because in that case, I understand it. But in points for, points against, if you got the same record, I don't think that should matter if it's not common opponents. So I always think leave it in the hands of the team. And are you really going to get East Carolina, Tulane, North Texas, or Navy to fight with you that they have to play an extra game for the right to get in, I wouldn't be fighting at all because I want it in my hands.
You'd want to play the game.
I want it in my hands. Because then if I lose, it's on me. It's on me.
But I got another idea. Since it's been so popular these days, why don't we just ask ChatGPT?
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. The one that we asked,
the best solution is play the game.
right. And the one that we ask if they were the devil, what would they do to take over the world? Why don't you terrify yourself and listen to their answer to that? So, looking at college football, you've heard my top 15, Murph. Agree or disagree down the line because you've heard it now. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, that's the 5. Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas Tech, Oregon, Vanderbilt rounds out the 10. I might even put Vanderbilt over Oregon at that point. Miami, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, BYU, Utah, Texas. That's the top 16.
I mean, the only thing I might consider changing is putting Georgia over Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M is as good, personally, if we're kind of going off of that. But I think everything else is fair. I love that you're finally putting Notre Dame a little bit higher, and because they've won a couple of games that make you think, all right, those are decent wins. So those make sense.
Right.
I also want to state for the record that at this point, with Notre Dame winning those 2 games, they are a lock. They will be in the playoff. And I get that maybe they shouldn't be over other teams. They're a lock. They're getting in. My guess is probably as like the 10 or 11 seed. They won't be the 12 seed. That's going to be reserved for whoever it is from the American or James Madison.
Since they respect those conferences so much, they're like, hey, no man, they didn't even bother ranking any of them in the first top 25 this year. They just put Memphis at 12. They didn't even tell you where Memphis was. They weren't in the top 25. But again, committee, I know there's a mad dash to put as many Big Ten teams in the ranking as you possibly can to make it look like there's more quality wins than actually exist. But let's be real. James Madison, Tulane. I mean, East Carolina's got 3 losses. They're 7-3. But James Madison, Tulane, North Texas, and Navy should all be in your top 25 this week. I don't care if they're 22, 23, 24, 25. But
we're one away from that. They put Houston in over Navy, who Navy is 26.
Talking about the AP,
Yeah, all I'm saying,
yeah.
Well, yeah, in the AP, Navy's 26. So they're right outside. Illinois, for some reason, is 27.
Above SMU. SMU beat Miami. SMU
above
went to
SMU.
SMU went
Arizona
to double
State, above
SMU.
Louisville, above Iowa, above Pitt.
Yeah. And why is that, Murph?
Even rank UConn ahead of them.
Above.
And it's UConn.
Right.
They suck at football.
Murph.
I would even put them ahead of them.
Murph. But tell us why. Just say it for the people at home because you know it's true. Why is Illinois ranked that high? Why are they 27th, Murph? Because they're in what conference? There's no other reason, Murph. Look at their schedule. If you could find another reason other than the fact that they have a Big Ten logo on their jersey, I'll give you whatever card I have in my lot.
The literal reason to me,
because they're
I gotta pull up
because they're in the Big Ten.
Indiana's schedule so that I can find them. The reason they're even considered at all is because they beat USC. That's it. They just lost to Washington.
But way before they beat USC, they were 9th in the country because of nothing. Because they were in the Big Ten. If Illinois was in the Big 12 right now, Murph, there would be no talk. If they were in the ACC, they would have never been in the top 9.
Well, I mean, I think you could make the argument with Missouri as the same thing with the SEC.
And I have Missouri this entire year has done absolutely nothing. Why do I have Notre Dame higher right now? Because this is a fluid situation. Week to week, anything can change. And Notre Dame has beaten Pittsburgh, which I value that win. And I think that Notre Dame head-to-head would beat BYU. And also BYU had to lose for me to put BYU below them. Texas had to lose for me to put Texas below them. Other teams lost and Notre Dame won. This isn't strictly like, oh, Notre Dame's good. This is Notre Dame is getting help from other people. But here's the thing. Notre Dame does not have a conference. So we don't know the strength of the conference because they don't have one. They don't play in a conference championship. They can't win or lose a conference championship. So at most every year they're going to play 12 games. Their last 2 games are a Big Ten schedule. They're playing Syracuse at home and they're playing Stanford. And both of those games, okay, now Stanford...
Well, you couldn't tell me going into the year that you didn't think Syracuse was going to be a decent team.
I thought with a healthy Steve Angeli going back to Notre Dame, the team that he left to come to Syracuse, that would have been a really good game, would have been a great game to watch. Absolutely. We're talking about right now. Right now, this is stupid. I mean, right now, this is awful.
It's not Notre Dame's fault that Syracuse was their starting quarterback got hurt.
No, it's not their fault.
The guy that was the backup just wasn't good enough, and now he's even been replaced. So
right,
not their fault. But you're right. It's not like it's a nothing game.
Right. These games,
it'd be like going to play Rutgers right now.
Right. These games, the last 2 teams that Notre Dame will play are 3-7 and 3-7. And then they don't have a conference championship. So Notre Dame being protected.
It's still why I think they should be in the ACC. I still don't get why they're not. Money. I do get it. Money. It's the money from they don't want to have any sort of revenue sharing because they get all the money from their NBC contract for themselves.
It's free money.
And they get everything for themselves. But, you put them in the ACC,
right?
They're not going to be. They wouldn't be 8-2.
People say, well, they're head and shoulders above the ACC. They're head and shoulders above the ACC, and the ACC sucks. Okay,
they might be 6-4.
So let them go. Let them go. Let them play.
To be fair,
yeah.
I don't think the ACC is all that good.
When they put,
which is why I'm saying I still think Notre Dame would probably be 6-4 in the ACC.
This is the thing about the ACC, though. They are better than people are giving them credit for. This is the problem. People, and again...
I didn't say they weren't good.
Right.
I just didn't... I didn't say they were a bad conference. I just don't think they're that good.
This is the problem, though. Again, people making excuses for and against with the same argument, which you can't make it for both. And that being, the Big Ten is top-heavy. The ACC...
Oh, it's very top-heavy.
The ACC is getting publicly scrutinized for the last few years because they haven't been top-heavy. Because Clemson and Florida State have not been good, have not played up to par of the expectations of people outside of the conference. That's why they put them low. I would argue that the ACC is in better shape than they've been in a long time because the ACC has multiple teams that are vying. SMU has lost 1 ACC game since joining the ACC last year in the regular season. They played for an ACC championship in their first season in the ACC, lost by a last-second field goal. They played in the college football playoff in their first season in the ACC. So you look at SMU, okay, who's not ranked right now, who should be ranked, and SMU beating Miami, okay? You look at that. You look at the fact that they beat Miami. They're above Miami in the ACC. They beat Miami head-to-head. Miami's 15th in the country, according to the Associated Press, but SMU's not ranked. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And they're 7-3. Miami's 8-2. It's not like Miami's undefeated. So then you look at Pittsburgh, who has risen up. They have had very few bad seasons under Pat Narduzzi. They bounced back of having a bad season last season. They're a bowl team. Virginia, you look at people coming into this year saying, why haven't you fired Tony Elliott yet? They're going to fire Tony Elliott this year. Now that team is 9-2 on the season. Georgia Tech, who's a team that went to 8 overtimes last year with Georgia, and people say, was that a fluke? And then they come back this year and they're 9-1 going in to, that game in a couple weeks with Georgia. So Louisville, who I warned people about, and all the work that Jeff Brom's done, they're 7-3 this year. Duke under Manny Diaz was a strong team. Who, they're a team that's one game away from being bowl eligible. And you look at what Duke has done, and who is the coach that was at Duke that's now at Texas A&M, who's undefeated, who's getting a contract extension, Mike Elko. So I would argue that I would take an ACC that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. And keep in mind, Wake Forest, who's played spoiler this year, and people say you lose to Wake Forest, you suck. You lose to Wake Forest, that's why SMU's not ranked. That's why they can't go anywhere. SMU is still playing for the rights to be in the ACC championship game. They lost to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is 7-3, and people are treating them like they're 3-7. So they have a new head coach who came from Washington State. So I think people knock the ACC because Clemson and Florida State, their blue bloods, are not good this year to the expectation. But Florida State is still one of 2 teams that beat Alabama, and Clemson is still a team that's probably going to a bowl game this year. So Florida State, as bad as the last 2 years have been, Florida State should have been in the college football playoff 2 years ago, and Florida State still beat Alabama this year. And then you look at the fact of Clemson and what Clemson's done, and Clemson beating Louisville knocked Louisville out of the ACC championship contention. So even a bad Clemson team, according to some people, and a bad Florida State team still have quality wins this year against good teams that have been in the top 25, if not the top 5, if not the top 4. And you got 5, 6 teams still vying to be in the championship game. So I would argue against the mainstream media and saying I would rather have an ACC with 6 good teams than have an ACC with 2, like the Big Ten every year, which has 2 or 3. So that is my argument, which is my same argument for the American, because the American's got 4 teams that are still trying to figure out who's going to go to their championship game, where every single year we know it's going to be Ohio State. So why is the committee so hard on the ACC when they're not hard on the Big Ten, when the only team that really has anything to show in the last decade plus, by and large, for the most part, is Ohio State? Michigan's had one claim to fame. Indiana's had none, because when Indiana plays good competition, they lose. And then outside of that, who else? Nobody else. Oregon was undefeated. They lost to Ohio State the second time around. I mean, the ACC, and the ACC did it on the basketball court. The Big Ten got all these spots. The ACC got half the spots, and the ACC goes to the Final Four, and the Big Ten's out of it. So the reality of it all is this world that we live in, where the Big Ten has precedence over the ACC, always gets played out on the field in courts of life, and most of the time the ACC shows they're better. And so, I mean, the fact of the matter is the Big Ten's top-heavy. The ACC has a better conference than the Big Ten has by the amount of teams that have had good seasons. And when you look at the amount of teams that have had good seasons, I would rather have this ACC than have that Big Ten. I would rather have 6 or 7 good teams than have 1 or 2. And that's my argument for the ACC, and why this is the thing, Murph, and you know this and I know this. And when you say, why is this way and why is this that way, I always answer you with the same thing. Because of narratives. Narratives are created at the beginning of the year, and they won't let them go. When they tell you a team is bad, they got to hold on to it. Instead of looking at the screen and saying they were wrong, they have to. I've looked at the screen and said I was wrong. I'm ranking, and this is not even me being wrong, I'm ranking Notre Dame high. I said if Notre Dame beats Pittsburgh, then that's a quality win. Notre Dame blew out Pittsburgh, so then I said it's a quality win and then some. So now I pushed Notre Dame up a little bit higher. They're not a top 10 team. They're not. Okay, and the fact that Notre Dame has to beat a bad team and a bad team, and then doesn't have to play a conference championship. So you're going to tell me that Notre Dame, who's kind of an ACC team but not an ACC team, is definitely in. But then the ACC, whoever wins the ACC championship is in and nobody else is in. So we're going to live in a year where we're not going to put in a Georgia Tech. We're not going to put in Virginia. We're not going to put in Pitt. We're not going to put in SMU. We're not going to put in Miami. Only one of them, but not 2 of them. Like, that to me is ridiculous when Oregon has 1 quality win. The Big 12, in my opinion, should have one team get in, unless Utah does something crazy. But they should have one team get in. If Texas Tech wins, then Texas Tech's in, BYU's out. That's a clear indicator there. That's easy. Mm-hmm. But the committee's already shown that they like the Big 12 more than the ACC. They like the Big 10 more than the ACC. And the ACC can argue that they've beaten up on each other more than the Big 10 has. They have more quality wins than the Big 10 has. SMU has more quality wins by number than Ohio State. They have more quality wins than Indiana. They have more quality wins, arguably, than Texas A&M. So, and I would even say that if SMU was not 7-3 right now, if they were 9-1, they would still be in the same spot. They'd still be below Texas A&M. They'd still be below Indiana. They'd still be below Ohio State, even though they could argue themselves above, even though they beat a Miami team that was number 2 in the country. So, I mean, what are we really saying here other than the fact of when we break it all down and all the games are played, the thing that is above all is that there are bias of the people in the room and they go after the programs that make the money. And why would they put in SMU when Notre Dame can make them more money? Why would they put in Georgia Tech when Miami can make them more money? And that's the best case scenario, Murph. The best case scenario is that Georgia Tech beats Georgia, plays in the ACC championship, and a different ACC team wins the ACC championship. Because then how can you leave Georgia Tech out with a win over Georgia and 2 losses on the season? And how can you allow your ACC champion to be out? That would be the best case scenario for the ACC.
100%. And, you know, do I think Georgia Tech's going to beat Georgia? Absolutely not. I think Georgia very well might blow them out. But still, if that does happen and they do beat Georgia, to me, they are in no questions asked.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yeah.
And I would still, and then theoretically, I potentially would still have Georgia in the playoff. But Georgia Tech ranked higher.
Oh, yeah.
So if you kind of go off, let's just say we do that. For the sake of this argument, Georgia Tech beats Georgia. Mm-hmm. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Oregon. Assuming Texas Tech wins the Big 12, we'll go Texas Tech. Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama. Let's just say for this argument, it's James Madison. So that's 10. Mm-hmm. We still don't have an ACC champion.
I'm thinking SMU can creep into this thing and win this thing. I really am.
We still don't have an ACC champion in here. Georgia Tech, they're not in to get to the as of right now, they are not, or are they in?
Yeah, they're in. They're the top team.
So they would be in the ACC championship.
Yep.
So
I'm saying
if they lose,
I'm saying they're 9-1. And they're 9-1. They beat, let's say, argument's sake, they're 9-1. They finish the season 11-1, including a win over Georgia. Then they lose in the ACC championship, so they're 11-2, and SMU wins the ACC championship. So SMU ends this season. So if Georgia Tech's 11-2, then SMU ends 10-3.
Could you make the argument to put the American team in over the ACC champion, and then put Georgia Tech in?
Well, you take the 5 highest ranked ACC or you take the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
Let's assume, for the sake of this exercise, that's the case. But let's just say North Texas wins the American,
and they put North Texas above
and they're
12-1.
Would you put North Texas above SMU and basically knock SMU out?
No, because of the wins that SMU has. They said that there was a doomsday scenario, and again, narratives, because they have to keep telling everybody that the ACC sucks. I don't know what happened or who the ACC pissed off 4 years ago, that out of nowhere, it was like the ACC's up here, and now all of a sudden we don't respect the ACC. But it had been happening systematically over time, because Boeheim and I actually, we agreed on the statement of, you keep putting all these Big Ten teams in and they keep wasting all these spots and losing. You put the ACC in 4 spots, 5 spots, you give the Big Ten 9. in the NCAA tournament, and the ACC is there at the end of it, and the Big East is there at the end of it. So, why are you giving all these spots to the Big Ten?
Big Ten's not a basketball conference.
Right.
I don't know what anybody.
Right.
I don't know what anybody would be talking about there.
They've been getting they've been getting the spots, them and the SEC. If you look at basketball and football, which is the big money makers in college,
well, the SEC is different.
They've been taking care, but the SEC was down for a really long time. They were down for a very long time. They were top heavy. They were 1 or 2. Now they're 8 or 9 or 10. I think, what they say one of the years that the SEC had 10 of 14 teams in within the last few years here in the NCAA tournament. So the SEC and the Big Ten are being taken care of because the NCAA doesn't want to lose that, and they don't want them to go off on their own, in my opinion. So, in what I've been tracking for years. And by the way, folks, a lot of my predictions have come true, or we have gone down those roads of seeing parallels. So when we look at the doomsday scenario that the talking heads on major networks have started to say, because they have to keep perpetuating this lie that the ACC is terrible in football, they said the doomsday scenario is Duke makes the ACC tournament, Duke wins, and they take no teams from the ACC because they don't take Duke as the champion. So that would mean they take the champion in no specific order of the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, the American, and the Sun Belt, which is James Madison. And they don't take any ACC schools, which to me is blasphemy to football. So that would be wild.
Georgia Tech would have to be 10. Would have to be 10-3.
But see,
I'm sorry, 9-3.
But see, I look
because they wouldn't play in the.
I look back at this, and I'm all about.
Actually, yes, they would.
I'm all about creating opportunity, and I fought like hell for it forever. I should say, I fought like heaven, not fought like hell. I wouldn't fight for hell. So, but I fought like heaven for the fact of the American and the Sun Belt and the Mountain West and all that. So, by the way, the Mountain West gets more respect than the ACC in basketball too. But another day. When we look at the ACC, there is no world, in my opinion, unless everything blows up and all of these teams lose, there's no world where they don't consider 2 teams. The committee wants to put Miami in. Why? Because Miami is going to be the one that's going to make them the most money. That's in my opinion. Because there was no reason to put Miami in last year. Remember last year? For weeks, they had SMU ranked below Miami, and SMU was above them. And I said, how are you above a team in your own conference and you're not ranked above them? And it took until the bitter end before they ranked SMU above Miami. Miami had to lose to Syracuse. So I can understand the committee saying we're not going to put in Virginia. But Virginia's quarterback went down in that game that they lost to a 7-3 Wake Forest. By the way, I'm going to keep saying it. Wake Forest is better than people give them credit for. They're 7-3. They're better than a ton of teams in the Big Ten. So the fact that they treat Wake Forest like a bottom feeder, they're a hell of a lot better than like half of the Big Ten. And
so you're defending Wake Forest the way I defended Iowa earlier in the year.
Yeah, I'm defending the fact.
And I think it's totally fair.
Right. Wake Forest has had a tremendous year with a new head coach. And nobody's talking about it. I shouldn't say nobody, maybe somebody, maybe the ACC network, but besides the ACC network and Wake Up Call, who's talking about what's going on with Wake Forest? Hopefully more than the 2 of us. I hope you all are. If you're not, you should do your homework. But to look at Georgia Tech, SMU, and arguably Miami right now, because like I said, I have Miami number 11 because I can argue them up that high. The ACC should have 2 bids. I don't even know why we're even discussing this. Why, not you and I, but why we're discussing this. The SEC should have 5 to 7. That's real deal. That's real deal squeal. They should have 5, if not 6. The problem with the SEC is their good teams play each other and beat each other. The problem with the Big Ten is they play crap schedules and they beat those crap schedules like they should. So they get 3 teams in for doing almost nothing, where the SEC knocks each other out. This year, if you're an SEC school and you're named Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Texas, Ole Miss. If you have any one of those names and you have 2 or 3 losses, I'm still looking at you. I'm looking at you above Notre Dame. I'm looking at you above Oregon. Like, because you should not be faulted for playing a hell of a lot better schedule. And if Notre Dame is given credit for almost winning, then I look at Vanderbilt and go, okay, if they lose a game in overtime by 1 in the SEC against a good team, if you're going to argue that Notre Dame almost won and they're a top 10 team, well, then I'm going to argue Vanderbilt. I'm going to argue Texas. Texas might be the best team in the country that's not in this thing. They might be the team that should have been in this thing that's not in this thing. And why are they not in this thing? Because they played a tougher schedule than Indiana? If Indiana played Texas's schedule, we're not talking about Indiana. If Ohio State played Texas's schedule, and keep in mind, they beat Texas head-to-head 14-7 in a really good, low-scoring game that I would love to see again. Ohio State's had Texas's number. They had it in the Cotton Bowl in the college football playoff semi. I was at that game. And they had their number this year. And that's Ohio State's only good win this year. So if you leave Texas out, what are you saying about Ohio State? You're saying the team that you left out of the college football playoff is the only team that Ohio State can write home about until they go to the Big Ten championship and if they beat Indiana, which they blew them out last year, by the way, folks. If you forgot.
I don't know if they're going to beat Indiana this year.
But that's the thing.
I legitimately think Indiana could beat them.
But that's what I'm excited about, because you got 2 teams that have done a whole lot of almost nothing to be where they are right now. And if the argument is you can't fault them for the schedule that they make years in advance. You can't fault them for their non-conference schedule. Yes, you can, because Penn State plays a crap schedule all the time. And Indiana didn't play a great schedule either. But you can't. Ohio State and Michigan did not play a non-conference schedule of any merit until the last 2 years, when they started playing Texas and they started playing like Oklahoma, and they actually started testing themselves. And I said that in advance. I said Ohio State and Michigan have done nothing in the non-conference because they know the Big Ten gets unfair, biased in a positive way, so they know they don't have to play a tough schedule like the ACC does or the American does or the Sun Belt does or the Mountain West and so on and so forth. So knowing you don't have to play a tough schedule, they don't. But Ohio State, to their credit, finally started doing it, and Michigan started doing it. Penn State doesn't do it. But Ohio State and Michigan have played tough schedules out of conference.
They haven't even tried to do it yet.
Right. Penn State doesn't play a tough schedule out of conference. Indiana doesn't play a tough schedule out of conference. But here's the thing, Murph. One of the arguments that people have said is you cannot fault a team for the teams they play non-conference because you don't know where they're going to be ranked years down the road, blah, blah, blah. And then they've also said you can't fault a team for how their conference plays. If they beat the teams in front of them and they're undefeated, you have to give them credit. And I laugh off that argument because they don't do that for the ACC. They don't do that for the American. Who was arguing you can't fault Memphis for beating a UCLA team that is good historically, but they beat them, but they weren't good that year. But you can't you can't give them credit for beating UCLA. And you can't give Tulsa credit for beating Oklahoma State because Oklahoma State's had a down year. But what would they say if that was Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, or Oregon?
Yeah.
They would say, well, they did that 4 years in advance, and we can't fault them. And then what do they say when the American beats a bunch of unranked teams in their conference and they go undefeated? They say you can't give credit to Memphis. You can't give credit to UCF. You can't give credit to South Florida. You can't give credit to North Texas. You can't give credit to UAB when UAB's won. You can't give credit to UTSA when they've won. You can't give credit to East Carolina. But they say that you can't fault Indiana for beating a bunch of unranked teams because it's not their fault. And all I say in response to that is, if you had made that argument for anybody in the American or Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt, then I would say, okay. But you cannot make an argument for someone and not somebody else. So the reality of the fact is Ohio State and Indiana play an easy schedule, and they should win most of these games. The only test Ohio State had this year was Texas, and they won. The only challenge that Indiana had this year, none of them were out of conference, which they should be held accountable for. and because they did play an FCS team just like Penn State did, and they played at Oregon, they played at Iowa, and those are good wins. But that's all they got. And I don't, and that Murph, to me, that's an argument that falls dead so fast, you barely got to open your mouth to it, to say you can't fault us for our non-conference or our conference schedule. If the teams are unranked, it's not our fault who we play. We beat the teams in front of us, because they have never once made that argument for the American, and the American has had a ton of undefeated teams that don't even get ranked. Army included last year.
Yeah.
Army had the best season they've ever had in the history of their institution. And they weren't even considered.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things where it's kind of the way the world works, and it sucks.
Yeah.
There are plenty of, I mean, we've talked about this. There's plenty of teams in the American that could, you know, if you transport them into a different conference, they could compete, you know, in a Power 4 conference. You know, as we've seen from Cincinnati in the Big 12 the last couple of years, as we've seen from SMU in the ACC.
Yeah.
You know, are they going and winning a conference championship? No. But they're competing. They're giving themselves a chance. And there are good teams in those conferences. There's also a lot of bad teams in those conferences. But there's also a lot of bad teams in every conference. But just because the team's bad now doesn't mean they're going to be bad in a couple of years. Look at Vanderbilt. Case in point. They were the worst team in the SEC for years.
Yeah.
They beat Alabama a couple of years ago. The city of Nashville goes crazy. And look where they might make the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to.
And there were people saying that the SEC should force Vanderbilt out of their conference. And last year they beat like you look at the last couple of years,
and honestly,
like you said, getting the win over Alabama. Clark Lee should be up for Coach of the Year. And Clark Lee was where? He was the linebackers coach at Syracuse under Scott Schaefer a few years back. Then he went to Notre Dame. Then he got the job at Vanderbilt. And he is one of the best head coaches in the country right now, because he took a bottom feeder that maybe won 1 or 2 games in conference and made them a national name. Vanderbilt should be in this college football playoff, barring any other losses.
Vanderbilt for years has been known as a baseball and softball school. That's it.
Yeah. Not basketball, not football.
Excellent academics, but basketball hasn't been good. Soccer has not really been that good. Never hear anything about like lacrosse or track or anything. It was baseball and softball. And they were known for that. They're still known for that. Vanderbilt has a lot of players in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt has been an outstanding baseball program for many, 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 many years. You don't hear that about their football team. I think they went a couple of years without winning a game in the SEC at different points. This was a school. Think about playing. Let's just imagine you took the University of Delaware, who just got promoted to FBS this year.
Yeah.
Worst team in college football 26 in the video game. And you put them in the SEC. How do you think they would do? They'd probably go 0-8 in the conference.
Yeah.
Or 0-9 in the conference.
I think if you put Indiana in a tough SEC schedule, they go 2-6, arguably. If you put them against Alabama, Georgia, year, sure. Ole Miss.
Last year, sure.
Yeah.
This year, I think maybe they wouldn't be undefeated, but maybe they're 7-3, 8-2 at this point. I do think there are teams in the SEC that could be. I think the playoff will will tell us a lot.
It'll decide that.
Better than people are giving them credit for.
I think Indiana's I think they're a good team, but saying that you have the best offense in the country, it matters who you play. Like with their schedule, like if I'm averaging 500 yards per game, I'm not playing Georgia. I'm not playing Alabama.
It's like the
I'm
Big 12 back in the day when it was nothing but offense.
Right, and when the Big...
Remember probably like 10 years ago when you had like Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, all these teams are scoring 45 points a game and allowing 38 points a game.
But think about
it. It was every game in the Big 12.
And then you
get the SEC
when they played notable competition.
Defense.
Right, when you played notable competition, when the Big 12 did, what happened? You know what I mean? Like,
because it couldn't play defense.
When they played good defensive teams, what happened? Like the Big Ten's known for being good in the trenches. They're known for being able to just wait you out. And that's what Ohio State did to Texas. They just starve you. And that's why I give Ohio State credit. Like last year,
defense.
Like last year when Ohio State won the national championship, to the people that didn't listen to my words and just flipped out because I said something that challenged what they were thinking. Because in today's world, if you challenge someone's thought process or like what they believe in or whatever it may be, they're going to like lose their mind and just see red, but not really listen to you. Because we've lost the art of discussion, which we need to get back, which is why we do it on the show here. Mm-hmm. You even said it last year when Ohio State won the national championship, and I was so excited for them, and I gave them credit, and I talked to their players, and I talked to their coaches. What did Murph say? He goes, Dan never said they were a bad team. Dad never said they couldn't win. All I said was they were given an unfair ranking in the poll. But I never once, like when people are like, you can't cheer on Ohio State. You can't cheer for the Big Ten. You were against them all year. I said, I wasn't against the players.
For anybody you want.
I was like, I wasn't against the players. I wasn't against the coaches. I didn't say a bad word about anybody. All I said was they're unfairly ranked high, and I don't think that they've beaten a lot of good teams, which is the same thing I'm saying this year. It's the same thing I'm saying this year. But I never once said they weren't good. And Murph, before I could even get it out of my mouth, Murph said last year after they won the championship and I went back in the studio, Murph said, you never said to your credit that they were a bad team last year.
You did, and you didn't.
I never did. All I said was I wanted them to play better competition. It's the same thing about Indiana.
It's the same thing we're talking about now. It's the same thing we're talking about with Notre Dame.
Right. I'm not saying
it's the same thing we're talking about with Ohio State now. And granted, Indiana's played some better team. I think Indiana's played a tougher schedule than Ohio State has, to be fair.
They have.
Which is why I would still personally rank them ahead of Ohio State at the moment. I know, even though, I know they barely beat Penn State and, whatnot. But, you still got to win the game.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. You still have to win the game.
Which Notre Dame hasn't done.
It was a trap game.
Yeah.
In Happy Valley. It is not an easy place to play. We've had that conversation how many times this year?
Right.
I don't care how bad Penn State is. That's still a tough place to play, no matter what Penn State's record is. And they showed that when they play at home, they are still tough to beat, regardless of their record. And Indiana still went in and persevered and won the game.
And I think
they get credit for that.
I think Indiana, like I've been in the Penn State environment, and it's an awesome environment, and it's crazy, and it's insane, and it'll change your minds and opinions of certain things if you experience it. When you experience it, I see it differently than Murph in the sense of, like, I credit their atmosphere, but I think barely beating a horrible team is actually not a good look. Just like Texas A&M coming back and barely beating South Carolina, like, you won the game.
I think we could both agree that South Carolina is a better team than Penn State this year, though.
Oh, they are. And it's like you won the game, but it took everything you could muster up to beat a bad team. Like, I give you credit.
It was a trap game.
I give you credit for winning the game. Right.
It was a trap game.
I give you credit for winning the game, but I also say, like, Indiana, if you're really better than Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Texas, you shouldn't be barely beating a bad team. And so that's how I look at it. Like, when Miami went up, 2 or 3 spots for beating Syracuse, I'm like, why are you moving up the polls? Like, everybody would have to lose for that to have. Like, why are you moving up the polls for beating Syracuse? Syracuse is a horrible team. You beat them by 28. So, like, I always look at what you're doing. Like Texas A&M, that win was insane, and it was amazing. It's their biggest comeback in the history of their school. It's the biggest comeback this entire year in college football in the FBS. But I said to myself, look at how excited you are for Texas A&M. But you thought that Indiana barely beating Penn State was a bad look for Indiana. So you can't say great Texas A&M and then not say great Indiana for the comeback win. I give them both credit for winning the game, but I can't be ecstatic for Texas A&M beating a bad team if I'm not ecstatic for Indiana beating a bad team.
Sure.
And that's where you have to check yourself. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people look at Texas A&M and go, that's why we're better than them. And I'm like, Indiana, y'all did the same thing. And with all due respect to them, they scored a hell of a lot more points than you did. And they came back from a lot more. So I also would say to people, if not for the transfer portal, who's Indiana? If you don't have Mendoza from Cal last year, who gave respect to Cal last year? In their first season in the ACC, who talked
And then Mendoza
about Cal?
very well could be the Heisman winner and #1 pick next year.
And Mendoza had a good season at Cal, had good numbers at Cal, and how many people were talking about Cal? Bowl team Cal. People were treating Cal like they were like yesterday's news. They were garbage. Berkeley's trash. So all I'm going to say, too, to those Indiana fans that love them some Mendoza, what did you think of him last year? Did you know anything about him? Because if you go back and look at his numbers last year and you look at what he did last year, like if you don't get him in the transfer portal, who's Indiana this year? So that's another thing too.
Garbage.
Right. That's another thing too. Is Indiana, you made a good pick in the portal and he stayed healthy. There's a lot of things that needed to work in your favor. You didn't recruit Mendoza out of high school. You did not build him up through your program. You got him through the portal, and he said yes, and it worked out, and he stayed healthy. You know, if Angeli stayed healthy for Syracuse, he was leading the country in passing yards. Would he be above him?
He looked great in the first 3 games.
Would he be? And since Syracuse hasn't had him, they haven't won a single game. So, you know, you talk about the value, the value that if Indiana had rolled the dice and got themselves a DJ Uiagalelei, what are we talking about? So, and I'm not trying to knock DJ. I'm just saying a move that didn't work. So, you know.
I can knock DJ. He stinks.
But it's a move that didn't work.
He was awful.
It's a move that didn't work. It was a guy that came from the West Coast, and it didn't work. And there you go. But
he originally came from Clemson.
Yeah, he came from the East Coast where he didn't work. And that was my argument. I said, I don't care what he did at Oregon State. He didn't win in the ACC before. I don't think he's going to win now. I think it's a bad move. And it was a bad move. So, I mean, Indiana, yes, you've won your games. But just like you did last year. You won a bunch of games. Well, last year, you really didn't have much of anything. At least this year you have at Oregon and at Iowa. But last year you did nothing. You got blown out by the only good team you played, and you got embarrassed in the college football playoff. I will give Indiana their flowers if and when Indiana wins the Big Ten championship, beats Ohio State that blew them out last year, goes to the college football playoff and wins, beats an SEC team. Because this is what I would say to the fans. If Indiana is one of the top 4 teams, and Indiana's got to play Georgia or Alabama in the second round, you go, oh, why'd you do this to us? If you're good, you shouldn't be worried. If you got it like that, play the game. Because the real dogs, they strap up. The real dogs don't go, oh, you got to play this guy. You play the game. So Indiana, I'm not saying you're not some real dogs. I'm saying, how do we know right now based on your schedule? We don't know. You look good. But the ACC don't get credit for a schedule like yours. The American don't get credit for a schedule like yours. The Sun Belt don't get credit for a schedule like yours. You got an easy road, baby. You should sleepwalk into this thing. Your conference opponents have a losing record in the conference. Your conference opponents are 500 or below or a little bit above. You have played a bad schedule well. But if and when you go to the college football playoff this year, Indiana, if you beat Georgia or you beat Alabama or you beat a Notre Dame or you beat Ole Miss, then we see it.
Mm-hmm.
But see, people come down so hard on the ACC that they don't play a tough schedule. But they've played a tougher schedule than you. SMU's played a tougher schedule than you. Miami's played a tougher schedule than you. Louisville's played a tougher schedule than you. Georgia Tech's played a tougher schedule than you. And we might not see those teams make it. So Indiana, if you make it, thanks to the Big Ten name on your jersey and the fact that you beat a bunch of teams that aren't that good outside of Oregon and Iowa, when you show it, then I'll say it. But the only reason why I'm not saying it is because I haven't seen it yet. And by the way, Indiana, if you think I hate you and you think I hate your conference, I would say the same thing about Alabama. I said the same thing about Ohio State. I said it about Penn State, and I was right. I said it about Penn State, and I was right. I banged that drum over and over and over again, and I was right. The only wins they had going into last week were against a crap non-conference schedule. Penn State did not challenge themselves. They beat poor competition, they lost to poor competition, and they lost to good competition. Penn State is not who the media and the coaches said they were. So all I'm saying, Indiana, is you're in the same conference as Penn State. You get that same love. You get that same rah-rah bias, and good for you. But you got to win the games against the teams that count. So I don't want to hear it. See, Murph gets it. And that's why Murph said at the end of it, when I said, man, I'm happy for Ohio State, he said, me too. Neither, oh, you said that. No. All I said was unfair bias, ranked high in the polls, don't know what they did. But when they...
I did say I told you so, but at the same time, like, you wore that one. Yeah. But you also, like we said, did not ever discredit them for being a bad team.
Murph, when they beat Texas, and I was at the Cotton Bowl, and I'm watching that game from the press box, I went, shit, this is a good team. Like, that was the game that showed me. When Ohio State beat Oregon the second time around, that I didn't think was going to happen.
They blew out
when Ohio State beat Oregon, when they beat Oregon, I said, all right. Because I didn't think but here's the thing now. In the first round of the college football playoff, you get to play a home game if you're the higher seed. My argument when I made my college football playoff field was that Tennessee was above Ohio State based on who they played. And Ohio State in the 8-9 matchup was the 8, Tennessee was the 9. I think that was probably one of the hardest ones to pick. And if Tennessee was the 8 and Tennessee played at home, would Ohio State have made it out of that game? So the national champion...
I think yes, but I don't know.
The national champion...
Stadium's not an easy place to play either.
Right. So the national champion may not have won their first round game. So again, it comes down to rankings, and that's why I get into these rankings so deep, because people got to understand something. If you make, number one, the rankings have to do with making the field. And then if you make the field, when people say rankings don't matter, yes, they do, because there's 7 at-large teams. When you make the field, it matters where you get ranked. It matters where you get set up. It matters if you're playing on the road. Clemson gave Texas a lot. They said every first-round matchup was easy and everybody blew everybody out. Who the hell was not watching that Clemson-Texas game with 7 minutes left to go? Like, Clemson made that a game, but the game was played in Texas. The game was in Arlington. That's better.
I still think Texas beats them in Death Valley, but still,
that was an actual
maybe not
game.
By as much.
Okay, I'm telling you this right now. There is no way in hell that Kevin Jennings or anybody at SMU could hear anything at the Penn State game that I was at. Okay, I'm not saying Penn State couldn't beat SMU, but I'm saying, what if Penn State played SMU at a neutral field in Ohio or Iowa or Nevada, as opposed to playing at home? You could not hear in that stadium. Penn State's 106,000 fans to like the 500 SMU fans, that arena was insane. People cannot discredit the first round being home field advantage. Not a single home team lost last year. And I have argued that if Ohio State played that game on the road in the 8-9 matchup and they had to go to Tennessee, there's a world where Ohio State doesn't get out of the first round. But to not belabor the point, but just state it clearly again, I've never said Ohio State's bad. I've never said Indiana's bad. All I've said is they have not played the level of competition that Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma have played this season. That SMU's played this season, that Miami's played this season, that Louisville's played this season, that Georgia Tech's played this season. That's what I'm saying. So if and when Indiana beats Ohio State, if and when Indiana beats Georgia, if and when Indiana beats Ole Miss, you can't go back to this tape and say, well, you did. All I said was I want to see them beat a good team. When they beat a good team, I'm going to do the same thing I do with Ohio State. I'm going to give them credit. What did I do with Notre Dame this year? I didn't give them credit when they didn't do anything. I gave them credit when they did. So I don't hate Indiana. They've just played an easy schedule. And I would take a bunch of teams over them in the SEC. I'm not saying Indiana can't do it, but there is something to be said about something that I've talked about and coaches talk about. Indiana's wear and tear on their body is not what Alabama has. When you play less competition, when you play lesser foes that push you less and whose athletes are not giving it to you like other ones do, you cannot tell me that Indiana, and there's also the reality that Ohio State can win those games when they get to the college football playoff because their body has not gone up against Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma and so on and so forth. And a coach will tell you that. A coach will tell you that we're going to be more prepared bodily because we played an easier schedule, because we could sit our starters, because we could bring in our backup quarterback, our backup tailback, our backup corners, our backup linebackers. You have to think about that too, Murph. The fact that Indiana and Ohio State, when your body is not pushed and challenged and hit as hard as other teams are going through in other conferences, there is something to be said about you don't have as much tread on your tires as other people, so maybe you do win those games because you haven't been hit as hard.
Yeah. I mean, I look back to 2020 Major League Baseball and looking at the Central divisions. The AL and NL Central were terrible. And then when they went to the playoffs and finally started playing everybody else because they only were playing teams in their division for those 60 games,
yeah,
or the opposing division, so the East was playing the East and so on and so forth. The Central was exposed as being bad, as we knew they were. This is no different. There are teams that are going to be in the playoff that probably shouldn't be and will get embarrassed. As you like to say, to get that butt whooping.
Yeah.
They maybe didn't earn the right to get that butt whooping. And we'll see. I mean, do I think James Madison or North Texas or Tulane or whoever makes it as the Group of 5 team is going to make a run? Absolutely not. I think they're going to get that butt whooping. But
do you think
at the same time,
do you think Indiana's going to beat 3 SEC schools?
I don't know. My guess is no, but you don't know. We could very easily see something similar to what happened last year. It does not seem to me that there is a truly number one best team in college football, and no doubt. We haven't had that in a few years.
No, I think
probably not since 2020 Alabama.
I think if we had a one-loss Alabama SEC champion, I think that's your team. But I mean, I still think between Alabama and Georgia, I still think those. And here's the thing: last week's field, the college football playoff said if it happened today, they would have South Florida at the time. South Florida would play Georgia in the first round. The winner would play Alabama in the quarter. And I said that's the best case scenario for Ohio State and Indiana, is if Alabama and Georgia, one of them knocks the other one out. If you got these SEC schools matching up against each other, that's a disservice to the playoff. If you got a quarterfinal between Georgia and Alabama, the whole rest of the field's going to thank you for that.
And I like that you don't have the top 4 conference champions as the top 4 seeds anymore. That was so stupid last year. Like, There's no way Boise State should have been the 4 seed. They got exposed by Penn State. They did.
Think about it this year. Think about it this year with the SEC. Think about like there should be
the 3 best teams might all be SEC teams.
Right. And that's the thing is like you
could be.
You should have 2 SEC schools in your top 4. There should be two there. The SEC has earned the right to have a bye for 2 of their teams. And again, like that's why I said best case scenario this past week, which almost happened, was that Texas wins and Oklahoma wins. So then Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia are all 8-2 because you're not going to drop Alabama and Georgia out of the top 10 for losing those games. So, I mean that if you're gonna put Notre Dame in the top 10 for not winning the close games, how are you going to take Alabama and them out for losing by 2? So. And Alabama's played a hell of a lot tougher schedule than Notre Dame. I don't even know if Notre Dame maybe they go 5-5 with Alabama's schedule. So seeing where things are at right now, I mean, Texas they can't lose to Texas A&M. But here's the thing. If Texas A&M loses to Texas and they only have 1 loss on the season at the end of it all, then, I mean, obviously Texas A&M should get in. But then do they do some weird thing where they go, oh, Texas A&M, what have you done for me lately? You lost, so now we're going to put in Notre Dame over you. And then you're sitting here scratching your head going, but wait, Texas A&M, like they won, they were undefeated to this point. They undefeated with a lesser schedule. Indiana did the same thing. Indiana's here. Ohio State's here. Why is Texas A&M being punished? So there's a lot of things that like the committee has to answer to. And the committee has to answer to the fact that Texas is a good team whether or not they make it. And I mean, at this point, barring insanity, barring a meteor hitting the earth, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. That's like worst case scenario. Like unless something crazy happens, we're talking 6. And if they leave Vanderbilt,
and they deserve it.
And if they leave Vanderbilt out for Notre Dame, I will rightly so be letting you know everything wrong with that. Because Vanderbilt right now has no reason.
They're a better team
to be count.
They're a better team than Notre Dame.
They are. They're a better team than Notre Dame. They played a tougher schedule than Indiana. They played a tougher schedule than Texas A&M. They played a tougher schedule than Ohio State. Vanderbilt is a force. And again, there's something to be said about a team that goes from 14th in the SEC to the top 5. So, there's something to be said about that, and credit needs to be given to the work that they've done within their conference as well as just in general. We'll take a step aside, our final step aside. When we come back, Murph and I will round things out with the NFL really quick. Murph, because I know I've said a lot here and taken up a lot of the college football time, I don't want to go to a commercial break without, if there's a final note you want to make, if there's any final college football note you'd like to say.
No, I think we kind of hit it all. We're not going to really know until we get to the playoff. I honestly wish the college football playoff would be making rankings from week 1 on, but that's neither here nor there because then those are the real rankings because we don't know what the rankings are until those rankings come out.
Yeah,
to me those are the real ones. But I'm looking forward to it. We got a couple weeks left. We have 2 more weeks in the regular season, and then we get conference championships, and then we get Selection Sunday. So we'll find out what's going to happen there, and we'll kind of see where we're at. Looking forward to another fun playoff this year.
Amen. We'll take our final step aside. Murph and I will come back with the quick NFL thoughts on his Jets, my Jaguars, right after this fast break inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942. And tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, but it's definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry loving friend. Right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Open for sales and service Monday through Saturday. Go and visit them. You can also go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com to get a sneak peek and get the number for sales and service. And I'm getting ready here, rocking the college football playoff, as I will be putting out, which I got here, National Championship Week. So shout out to the playoff. Looking forward to covering it this year by the grace of God, hoping that all will be well. And I know it will be, because you're awesome, God. Picture of Jesus right next to me over my shoulder. So Murph and I, really quick here, his Jets, my Jaguars. Murph, I'll defer to you. My question to you, your thoughts on your Jets, your thoughts that the Jets won a game over the Browns within the last 2 weeks, with Justin Fields throwing 11 passes in the entire game, going 6 of 11. If you think that Mendoza is going to be the quarterback that you pick, there's a lot of thoughts. So one, how do you feel like the Jets, your thoughts on the Jets this season? 2, are they going with a quarterback? Is it Mendoza? And 3, does this not feel eerily similar to like 4 or 5 years ago when the Jets had a ton of first-round picks and they tried to build a team around a quarterback and it didn't work out? So now they have a ton of first-round picks over the next 2 years and they're going to have to figure out what to do around a quarterback.
It's a good question, and to be quite honest with you, I don't really see any sort of justification for Mendoza yet. I honestly don't love any of the quarterbacks in this draft class personally. It's kind of what I've been seeing over the course of this season, and not that they aren't good. I just don't know that they're going to be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, like if Simpson can, do what he's doing at Alabama at the NFL level, I genuinely don't know that he can. So, it's interesting to really find out what is going to come of that. I love the fact that they've got all these first-round picks. We haven't gotten to talk about that since I've been home.
Yeah.
So, or since the deadline for that matter. So, it's nice knowing that they have these picks and, they're going to be able to get a lot of different guys. And I'm of the belief that they should take those draft picks and go trade them for an established quarterback. That's just my personal opinion. I'd love to throw 4 to 5 first-round picks at the Bengals for Joe Burrow and see if they bite. We'll see. I doubt it, but I don't know. But yeah, a lot of things can happen. And that draft class in 2022 was very good. They just couldn't build pieces around them because they had a terrible quarterback. And then when they brought in a good quarterback, it fell apart. Yeah. So to me, I don't really know what the plan is going to be. I also think we absolutely fleeced the Colts for Sauce Gardner. I don't think he was worth 2 first round picks, and they got 2 first rounders anyway. So thank you, Indianapolis Colts. Also thank you.
You Jaguars them. You did what they did for Jalen Ramsey.
But here's the difference. Jalen Ramsey, I thought, was worth 2 first-round picks. Sauce Gardner was not. Sauce Gardner was not worth 2 first-round picks. Not the way he's played the last year and a half. So I will take it. A.D. Mitchell was kind of a throw-in. he looked horrendous in the game against the Patriots on Thursday night.
You have John Mechie.
Dropped 3 passes. John Mechie looked good, like that one. Like that move for Michael Carter. We got the better draft pick and John Mechie, so, I'll take that. Decent receiver, and I'm never going to complain too much about that. But A.D. Mitchell is not looking great so far. I'm not overly thrilled about him, but we get the 2 first-round picks. That was the point of the deal.
Yeah.
You got the 2nd and the 1st from Dallas in the deal for Quinnen Williams. You're going to have 3 first-round picks next year. 2027. That's the better draft class, folks. So maybe you trade one of the first-round picks this year out of the first round. Like maybe you make your pick, and then whatever the Colts pick ends up being, maybe it's in the mid-20s. You trade out of the first round, and you get a first-round pick next year. Now you got 4 first-round picks. That would be lovely. That would be incredible if they could do that, because 2026 ain't going to be the year. I can tell you that right now. Nor will 2027 or 2028. Probably not 2029 either.
It's crazy.
I don't know that the Jets are going to make the playoffs in this decade. I really don't.
They would have an 1/8 of the picks in the first round if they had 4
that would be
picks,
that
which
would be
is nuts.
amazing. And in that particular draft class, that's the one that you want to have. To me, if I'm the Jets and you don't get 1-1, if you don't get the first overall pick, I would not take a quarterback. Because you don't want the second guy. If you get the number 1 pick and you fall in love with a guy and you can pick who you want, then sure. If you fall in love with Simpson or Mendoza, or even the guy Moore from Oregon, who impressed me in the one game. I haven't really watched much of him since. I don't know how he's really been doing, to be honest with you. It's going to end up probably being one of Simpson and Mendoza. I don't know much about either one. I haven't really sat and watched a lot more than one game for either one. But we'll see what happens there. But I'm not like, I love what they did at the deadline. Not overly pumped about everything else. But Jags are looking good.
Yeah, I mean they're in the playoff. It's funny. Somebody said to me, I was like, if they make the playoffs, they'd be like 7th, and that's kind of where they are right now. I mean, they're doing great against the AFC West. I mean, they handled the Chargers 35-6. They beat the Chiefs 31-28. They gave up 26 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, up 29-10, and losing 36-29 to the Texans, whose backup quarterback Davis Mills from Stanford, who's not a bad quarterback, was leading that game, not C.J. Stroud. So they got blown out by the Rams. They lost to the Bengals on the road earlier this season after Joe Burrow went down, but they beat the Niners. I mean, they've been all over the place. They're hard to figure out. But I mean, they're 6-4, which is great. They would be bowl eligible if they were in college, and so I'm excited for them and to see the work that they're doing. I love the move to get Jacoby Myers, Tim Patrick doing his thing. So I'm happy they made some good moves. Jacksonville has shown this season under new head coach Liam Cohen that they are willing to make moves during the season that will benefit the team immediately, and some of those moves have. So I look forward to what they're going to do. I'm happy that they're in the playoff hunt right now, and I hope that it continues on the prowl for the Jags. With that being said, Murph and I are going to get hopping. I got to take one more break. Murph's got to go. I got to get somewhere. He's got to get somewhere. But Murph, good to have you back. And I will see.
Get my truck into the shop.
I will see you on Thanksgiving week next week.
Yes, you will after the Pocono show.
That's right. So enjoy the show. Have fun. We'll discuss. I send you my love, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Please give my best to you and the family.
Sounds good, my friend. You as well.
Thank you. Take care. That coming from Murph here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to get hopping real quick with a quick step aside because your boy's got to get on the road. So we will take that step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I want to thank all of our partners. I want to give a special shout out to Carvel DeWitt, our longest standing partner here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you the exclusive annoying moment of the week every single Friday. And of course, many thanks to having our own Sunday there, which we will be unveiling a new one here coming up in the holiday season. So very excited for that. I want to give a special thanks to the Wildcat Sports Pub and all the work that they do, and our coverage of West Genesee athletics on site, on location with West Genesee shows, as well as the GG Cards and Breaks trade night that I'm in partnership with, and fantasy football all at the Wildcat, bringing you fantasy football every Wednesday. Want to thank GG Cards and Breaks for being the one-stop shop for sports cards and trading cards, a place where you get to truly feel like a kid, and a place that just is so nostalgic that you feel like you're in a time capsule, that you're traveling through time and space. It's kind of like a DeLorean from Back to the Future. So big time shout out for always being a place that's top of mind. GG Cards and Breaks. Chick-fil-A, DeWitt, many thanks to them for all the work that they do. And the Peppermint Chip Shake is back. There's a bunch of holiday things going on. Get out to Chick-fil-A and DeWitt, corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. You can't miss it. Giant brick building with the double drive-through. I also want to give a special thanks to Pizza Man and all the work we get to do there with Baldwinsville Bees Athletics. We'll be there very soon this month. Stay tuned to our social media to find out when we're going to be there. Shout out to the Bees and to Pizza Man and all the work I get to do with Jimmy Delia. And of course, many thanks to Great Lakes Honda City for being our exclusive studio partner. Also want to give a special thanks to Onondaga Community College, Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, and the Binghamton University Bearcats. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find the OCC playlist for the Lasers. Find the BSC Syracuse playlist for the Bobcats. Find the Binghamton playlist for the Bearcats. You can go and get more information on the Lasers by going to onondagalazers.com. For the Bobcats by going to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And for the Bearcats by going to binghamtonbearcats.com. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. God bless you in heaven, Chuck Sullivan, and all of your loved ones here on earth and in heaven. May your legacy live on in the most positive ways always. Thanks to Murph. Thanks to you. We'll talk to you all soon from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I say God bless. No stress. Do your best. Take care and be well.